think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. It's Ted Cruz. I mean, like, this dude has to be knocked over the head, like, hard.
Wow.
Fuck around and find out.
I just want to say that I have never promoted violence whatsoever.
I doubt it.
We in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Oh, my God, bro.
And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey.
Got him. Got him.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live for Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is my friend Stephen Baker. Thanks for joining.
Hello. This is awesome, man. I'm looking forward to the opportunity. We've been on air a couple times before. Always a good rapport.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a fan first of your content. So thanks for having me on, I don't know, a couple years ago after the Rob Smith incident.
Was that already a couple years ago? That seems like
December 23. So,
okay.
Yeah. Epic.
Well, yeah, longtime listeners of this stream might remember Steven here and there. I remember the call-in show song way back in the day, man.
That's right.
That was a
and
classic.
the tagline was same place, same race. Wednesday evenings are fine. So we've actually fulfilled the prophecy spoken of old, and we're here. So right. I'm excited, man.
Well, thanks for being here, man. More on Steven in a moment. For discussion tonight, we'll talk the latest in Signal group chat gate. How exactly did Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic get into the Houthi bombing group chat? The mystery remains. Congresswoman, the representative for Waffle House, Jasmine Crockett. She suggests punching Ted Cruz. And then she continues, she's got the hits coming. It's Governor Hot Wheels. Now, Governor Hot Wheels has been a long-standing nickname for Greg Abbott. I think many people are just now awakening to the Governor Hot Wheels moniker. There's a lot of pearl clutching about this. The thing is, Governor Hot Wheels is a funny nickname, but Jasmine Crockett is doing the worst possible thing. You have several choices. One is stand by the joke because it's funny, which I would respect. Mm-hmm. You can apologize. You can cave to the outrage mob. Or you can do what she's doing. Pretend like you didn't mean what you obviously meant. That's unfortunate. Stand by it. Come on.
Agreed.
You were mentioning before live, you are not familiar with deep vein thrombosis.
Deep vein thrombosis, DVT.
Sounds like a metal band, bro. It sounds like a concept album or something.
Yeah, it's back. Listeners of this stream remember my experience with DVT, but now the NBA is getting hit. And I'm reading Yahoo articles about actually, blood clots are common among NBA players because their limbs are so long and because they sit on airplanes for so long. Right. That explains it. There's nothing at all abnormal going on in men's health these days.
True.
And before we get out of here, we'll take some calls. If you'd like to call the show, there is a link to the Discord server in the description. There are instructions and help available on the server. We'll respond to email questions as well and catch up on some super chats. And speaking of, hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show. You can do that one time or recurring for as little as $1 a month over on my website. That's mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Support for the show not only helps me sustain, but it helps me pay the people who make the show possible. There are perks available for your support as well. And don't forget, there are lots of new graphics over in the merch store as well. T-shirts, mugs, all kinds of stuff. And likewise, merch sales help not only my operation, but they support the designers who made the graphics too, all of whom are listeners of this stream. mattchristiansenmedia.com/shop. You can find both of those links right there on my homepage, mattchristiansenmedia.com, or mattis.gay, if you can't spell my confusing name.
I forgot about that.
I was going to say, if you've never typed it into your browser, it's scary at first. The joke is it's just like Dicks.com, you know, Dick's Sporting Goods. You ever see those commercials on TV? Go to Dicks.com. We swear it's safe. You can get our awesome Nike apparel or whatever. Likewise, go to mattis.k.
Oh, love it.
And I got to say hi to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening, and that's our friends at Hero Soap Company. Hero Soap has yet another fresh new scent for your sampling. Spearmint is crisp, refreshing, and minty with a subtle cooling effect that'll leave you feeling clean all day. Don't settle for just fresh breath with some gum. Get full body fresh with Spearmint from Hero Soap Company. And remember, when you subscribe, you get soap straight to your door each and every month. You never have to remember soap at the store again. Listeners of this show get 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company. Not just the new Spearmint soap, but all the other bar soap, selection of liquid body washes, shampoo, conditioner, cologne, and more. Promo code MCListener for 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company. HeroSoapCompany.com, promo code MCListener. And likewise, you can find all the awesome deals from our friendly listener-owned businesses at MattChristiansenMedia.com/deals. All right. Well, thank you for your patience there, sir, because I shouldn't leave you hanging too long. Whoopsie. Stephen Baker, for those of you who don't know him, he hosts the Weekly Notice on Thursdays at noon Eastern on YouTube and Rumble. He's also the CEO of Patriot Jam, as you can see on his t-shirt there. It's an annual music festival in Nashville, scheduled for July 26th this year. The event is also live streamed on YouTube, and you can find all of Stephen's links atop the description. Of course, as I mentioned, longtime and dedicated listeners of my stream will know that Stephen and I have crossed paths a few times before. But for people who are new to you, give us a sense of your background.
Yeah, sure. Thanks as always for having me on. It's great. And just to the ad that you just read, it's good that a soap company is doing the Lord's work, because we don't want a bunch of incel chuds with bad hygiene out there. So I'm glad that you have hygiene related companies, helping you out. But
I am but a humble soap salesman, really. That's what when people ask me what my job is, that's what I tell them.
Cool, man. I love that. Well, yeah, I mean, my story's long, but I won't make it too long. I'm from the Detroit area, and I lived there until I moved to D.C. in 2010, and I lived in D.C. for about 10 years, which culminated in me getting arrested after being a January 6er. I was
That's exactly where I wanted to go. I want to hear the full details on that in a minute.
I was on the east side, not the side that Ashley Babbitt got shot on, but I actually was the filmer of what I believe is the most viewed clip in all of J6, which is the Hang Mike Pence clip. So if you ever see that, that's me, dude.
God, man, that and the Rob Smith moment, you've had some real bangers, you know?
Yeah, some historic moments. Yeah. So, politically, I'm an American white dude. So who doesn't love the ideas of liberty? And it's more of a past tense for me. And maybe we'll get some of that. I'm fully far right or Christian nationalist or maybe even fascist now. And I came through the right wing liberty conservative pipeline, kind of did my struggle there, my struggle, which is hilarious. I didn't mean to say that. But became a Christian in 2019. And in 2019, I came to faith in Christ, and that kind of changed everything. And my politics are fully Christian now. I mean, I don't want the church to run the state. In a lot of ways, I want the state to run the church, which is interesting. And I just love podcasting. I love people. I love broadcasting. I'm a professional musician, music teacher. But these days I've kind of doubled down again on, I flirted with leaving broadcasting and being full-time music for a time. And I just think that the Lord has put it in my path to do more of the ideas and live streaming and helping to solve these issues in the way I can, just to contribute. But I just recently moved to Nashville, bought a house.
Congrats.
I'm trying
That's
to
great.
Influence society however I can, but we can get into all that. But I just love talking. It's good to be on air with another bro, because when I do my stream tomorrow, it's going to just be 5 hours straight of me, baby. So
you go 5 hours solo? Holy cow.
I've done several 24-hour ones.
Yeah. I remember you did that years ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
Maybe
not again. Maybe never again. The real slogan will apply to my 24-hour streams. But yeah, I just love content, and I love ripping on people. I caught your stream last week where this guy was like, I will not be involved with making fun of other people on the internet. And I'm like,
that was a moment. And for people who are curious, I will address that on Sunday. That was, yeah, well, you definitely caught a moment there. I'm not going to get into it now, but that was one of the most memorable moments in the history of all of my streaming.
Yeah, and if you guys don't feel like waiting till Sunday, I will be reviewing that on my stream tomorrow. I will be mirroring that. I will definitely be breaking that down frame by frame tomorrow.
Okay, well, I will be filing a copyright strike against you because that is my material. No. All right.
So yeah, man.
Well, I know that politics and all that's definitely going to come out as we talk a little bit more. So I'll leave that hanging for now. But before we move into some news of the day, I got to know about the January 6th experience. Like what was the charge or charges? And then I know you went to jail too, or did weekend jail time. So what was the January 6th experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was very much like Forrest Gump style, like just a man unwittingly involved in the world's historic events. And at the time, I was kind of right at my pivot point of moving over to the far right, and I was still exploring, and I'd covered many events. It wasn't my first event. I covered many riots during the George Floyd Summer of Love. I've covered a couple free speech and gun rallies and stuff like that. And what people they forget about is January 6th was the culmination of kind of 4 or 5 different things. Number one, it was the culmination of the election. Number two, it was the culmination of 2020, which included COVID and George Floyd. It was the culmination of Trump won. And it really was almost the culmination of about a 50-year process of a certain people group, whether you want to think of them as white people or patriots or conservatives, kind of being oppressed by globalism, and Trump was supposed to be the solution to that. So it was, depending on how you demarcate your history, it was the culmination of anger and lies and all kinds of stuff. And not to mention, in a way, is how the government was founded in 1776. So it was a bunch of people that believe in the Constitution, that believe in this form of Americanism, really pissed off knowing something was fake and acting upon it in a decentralized it wasn't a big plan. Trust me. It was like a lot of people just kind of feeding off each other. Yes, I think there were feds there. Yes, I think there was Antifa there. But for the most part, I kind of subscribe a little bit more to the left's narrative on January 6th than the right, because if we say it was fake, that means the election was real, and I don't think it was. So I think that it wasn't an insurrection, but it's certainly a riot. Certainly some people did something. Certainly it was a gathering, but I just don't buy that it was such a Fed-surrection. Even at the time, I knew a lot of these people. So anyway, that was.
Did you see any of the celebrities? Did you see like the Ray Epps or the John Sullivans or any of those people?
So I wasn't on I was not on the west side of the Capitol, and I think Ray Epps, a lot of this stuff is just in hindsight, because what I did was, and we'll get to the aftermath, but if we go forward 2 years, the day I got sentenced, I was like, okay, I don't have to pretend anymore. And I did a week's worth of
What was the charge? Like a trespass or something?
Yeah, so I got charged with 3 federal misdemeanors, and it was basically the trespassing, like picketing, parading charge that everyone got slapped with.
That is the best, cutest charge. I'm a criminal parader. Congratulations. That's a great resume.
That's why I pled guilty to that. I was like, I totally did that. Disorderly conduct, and there was another one, I think it was entering and remaining in a federal building, and the plea deal they offered me was to drop the latter 2 and plead guilty to the first one. And I just factually did not do the latter 2. So I actually felt pretty fine with pleading guilty to that initial charge, because it was like, I looked up the definitions, all that stuff. I kind of did picket, parade, or demonstrate.
Why'd they put you in jail for a misdemeanor though? Did you have any priors or anything like that?
Not on my record. I do have priors from when I was younger. I don't know whether it's the feds, so they definitely saw that. I mean, I've had a couple like weed and drinking charges when I was younger. Okay. But I think it was just because I was a streamer, and I don't know what would have happened if I would have fought it all the way. But I just have been charged with misdemeanors before, and they're just not that big of a deal to me. I'm already doxxed. I'm already unemployable. I'm in this for life. And I was just like, people say, hey, do you want to get it expunged? I'm like, not really. It kind of looks badass.
Well, what about the pardons? Does that cover you?
It doesn't expunge it. I do have a pardon.
Okay.
I have it printed out somewhere, but it doesn't expunge your record. You can go and get that done through another process, but it's just a pardon. I mean, it was just like a cool thing that happened. I already done my time and stuff, so it was just kind of cool, but it's still on my record.
What do you do? So you went to federal prison, whatever the term would be, for like, what, 3 weekends?
Okay, so what it was is there are no such thing as federal jails, and the difference between jails and prisons is you'd go to prison for felonies and you go to jail for misdemeanors. And since there's no federal jails, you have to go to a county jail that's registered as a federal. So here's well, let me just go back to J6 real fast. And so what happened was I was streaming inside of there. Every bit of my act or my crime was on film. Like, I implicated myself and many other people, which is a damn shame. But you know, I just knew it was history. My life blew up overnight, death threats, whatever, like everything you would expect overnight. And then I kind of pretended I didn't go in a way which was retarded. I should have like come out with some sort of statement and said something, but I got fired 2 days later, and I was streaming.
What were you doing?
What was that?
What was your job? I'm not asking you to name your employer if you don't want to.
I was a music teacher. I was a music teacher online out of a music store in DC.
Okay.
If anyone wants to look it up, I can find the link at another time. There's a Daily Beast article called "The Secret Life of the Beloved Kids Music Teacher That Stormed the Capitol," and so it talks about it doxes me all. They interview my former coworkers. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Some true, some not. So got fired, all kinds of stuff. And I was staying at my mom's place temporarily anyway. So for the next month, I kind of went into in plain sight hiding. I still streamed. I still did content. I just didn't talk about J6. I was banning people, trying to like filter out, you know.
Okay. So you had decided like, I'm going to just try to delete my participation.
One of the dumbest things I've ever done in my entire life.
Was it just fear? Like, were you afraid of the content?
Fear. Yeah, fear. And I showed my face and said my name on the stream. Like, I knew it was the biggest moment of my life. So I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? He turned the camera on my face and I was like, what's up? I'm Stephen Ignoramus, believe in God, in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and repent. Like, that was like, if there's one thing you can say to the world right now, what would you say? I mean,
well, that's why they put you in jail, I think.
They made an example of all the media figures and so and also I just pled guilty. And yeah, so anyway, back to
that's even weirder to me, though. The fact that you pled guilty and they still gave you jail time is bizarre for a misdemeanor. Yeah. But I guess that's people were treated harshly. That's the way it played out.
Yeah. So a month later, the FBI, like a week before I got arrested, the FBI showed up with their business card. Like, we need to talk. I lawyered up, and my lawyer was like, hey, if he has a warrant, please tell me. He'll turn himself in. They never did. They showed up on February 1st at like 6 a.m.
They gave you the pre-dawn raid. Why does everybody? You didn't even get the opportunity to surrender voluntarily for a misdemeanor?
If they would have said I have a warrant, I would have just turned myself in. They just never told me or my lawyer, and they rolled through with like 15 agents, man. And they took like all the electronics out of my mom's house.
Were they carrying rifles and stuff, or what kind of kits do they have?
Well, it honestly, it's a funny picture of America, actually, because what they did is all the brute squad, the bros with the guns came in, intimidate us, and then all the HR, diversity hire women came up. You know how women do. They just look through your whole home anyway. So they were the ones that came through with like shopping carts full of electronics.
Job if you can get it, man. Yeah. Good for them.
So they took me to jail, and a lot of this is secondhand now from my mom, like, because she was there at her house, and apparently our patriot neighbor came across the street and was like calling these guys like feds and communist MFs, like just blessing them out, which is a white pill, So I got arrested then, and then I got sentenced a year later to 3 weekends in jail, 2 years probation. and like a couple $1,000s in fines or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, so they made me drive 2 hours, 3 weekends in a row, 2 hours to another place in the state to go be there for the weekend. And you're just there. If anyone's been to jail before, you get processed, right? You're getting processed, and then they go and seat you in your bunk, and processing usually takes a couple days. I was in processing with the lights on with everybody for 2 straight days. I would leave, do it again, leave, do it again. It was, so you're in there with everybody.
It's a hell of an experience, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll get a little bit more of it as time goes on. Thanks for sharing that. I should have heard that story sooner, but I'm glad to hear it, I guess 4 years later. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
God
is good.
Have you been following the various Tesla attacks going on lately?
Bro, I've been committing them.
Oh, okay. Well,
jokes.
I
okay?
don't think you've been doing it in this style, though. Let me get this. Hold on. Let me get the promo out of here. Did you see this attack that happened, I guess, yesterday? Did you see this one? You know what this one is?
Let's see.
Let me give you the video here.
Let's go.
Yeah. Does he give it another drive? Now, if people are listening and they're not watching, what we're looking at is a very large, I guess, man of color. Sort of ambiguous when they're that fat, because he does have a well, I don't know. He has a sizable bust, I suppose you could say. But he's riding a mini 4-wheeler and ramming it into the side of a Cybertruck here.
It's not against the law, ho, fuck you.
But it turns out it is against the law. He was charged with criminal mischief, this man. And he didn't just do it to, this is Texarkana, Texas. So he's got this little mini 4-wheeler. I'm surprised this 4-wheeler can support that massive weight. We're looking at like a Dank DeMoss size guy. Did you follow that saga, that woman with the lift thing?
I haven't.
Man.
I just didn't know her name. That is just the black whale, right?
Yes. Yeah. Dank DeMoss, the rapper who was rejected by Lyft.
DeMoss.
Yeah. He has Dank DeMoss figure, this man. His name is DeMarkian Marquise Cox. And he's 33 years old.
Strong Anglo-American name there.
And he was arrested. He was not parading. He got criminal mischief. And so he's actually being held on a $100,000 bond, failure to identify too. But it sounds like he hit multiple cars. Officers, after they arrested him, they learned that multiple Teslas were struck by this 4-wheeler, and they're trying to determine if he is responsible for the other 4-wheelings into Teslas. And you'd think, like, of course he is. Who else is riding a mini 4-wheeler into Teslas? But the times are so crazy that I wouldn't be surprised to learn that there's a whole squad going around doing this. So, I don't know.
They do that.
Elon Musk should advertise Tesla durability with this, I think. Like, that's very impressive that the truck can hold up to this. But you say you're committing them. Are you saying that you harbor anti-Elon bias? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I just thought a Cybertruck with Nazi on the side would go hard, dude.
Oh, all right.
I just did it to my own Tesla.
No, it wasn't vandalized. I just love the look.
I just really like that. It just goes hard, dude. Kanye fan.
And my swastika is even correctly drawn, correctly oriented, I'm sure.
They upped their game. They did it wrong for so long, but they they hired an artist on Fiverr.
Well, yeah, maybe. I suppose that is a pretty good work if you can get it these days. Like correctly drawing swastikas, there's a big market for that. Mm-hmm. But the big news of the week is that Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg somehow got into the Trump administration's Houthi bombing group chat on Signal, and still really nobody knows how or why. Even Jeffrey Goldberg himself claims not to know why he was invited to this chat, though he was. And everybody's all caught up in these national security implications and questions about White House competence. And those are fair questions. I'm not dismissing them. But I think everybody's missing the biggest part of this scandal, because Goldberg publishes this story on Monday, and he gives us some screenshots of Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and John Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of the gang. The chat is all about how we're going to bomb the Houthis in Yemen, which they did. And it turns out not everybody was on board. J.D. Vance was saying, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't bomb the Houthis. Let's hold off for a minute. And then this morning, Goldberg and The Atlantic put out some more screenshots of these group chats. Hegseth was offering a timeline for how this is going to play out. nobody is actually digging deeper to find what is really controversial. People are not talking about this screenshot here where JD Vance actually started it out. JD Vance posted the opening N. Hegseth then followed it up with the I, and Ratcliffe responded with the G.
He said the N-word.
And then Waltz shut it down. I couldn't, we didn't get the GER, but you know, why is this seems like the real scandal here, the overt racism in the Hootie group chat.
Dang, man, I can't believe they're getting me to like JD Vance. I didn't know about this part of it.
Well, this is a hoax part of it, but I wish it was real.
Too bad, man. Yeah. I would withdraw my boycott if it was true.
If JD Vance had posted, okay, so I don't know your opinion of JD Vance, but you're telling me that if JD Vance posted the opening end, that would be enough to redeem him in your mind.
That and divorce his non-white wife, but
you're an anti Usha.
I am just opposed to miscegenation, not maybe on moral grounds necessarily, but yeah, I think if you're going to be like the white guy and also write about, everyone's like, he's from Appalachia, he represents the little guy, and his book is basically anti-white. It's not that I'm just like going around every interracial couple I see is like, I'm just like judging them, but this means something. I mean, this is a European nation. I mean, okay, it hasn't been forever, and like dude, I'm fully of the opinion that the founders wanted this to stay a white majority country and a Christian majority country. I believe in that. I had family on the Mayflower. I have a lot of stock invested in this country, and and if people believe in free speech and in free opinions, then it's at bare minimum my right to think these things inside of their worldview. And I think that we lose something when the vice president, it's also the way he speaks about his own people and speaks about his own faith. It's just this yuck, like, oh, my shucks, my wife doesn't like, she's not a Catholic, but I drag her to church. And I just think he has kind of a self-loathing thing going on, and he's presented as kind of the great white savior. There's clearly grooming him for 2028.
I think he is your presumptive nominee for sure. Yeah, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen.
Who's your guy if you had to pick someone else?
If I had to pick someone, well, is it someone who's realistic and in the running?
No, who's your man on principle? I assume man, not woman, but you can pick a woman if you want.
Kanye West.
Oh, so okay. Unironically, Kanye.
Unironic. Okay. Well, very meta, like many layers deep, because I think that Kanye is definitely the one who will call out and perhaps depose Jewish power. And I also think that if you're keeping the collapsitarian and the LOL card in your back pocket as what he could do too, he also fits like the accelerationist and the nihilist vote, and also just the hilarious vote. And there's many different worldviews that Kanye. The
hilarious vote is key. He might get me on that.
The entertainment.
I'm not sold on Kanye, but for the lulz, I might press the button.
Yeah,
or check
I just
the box.
think that calling out Jewish power, I think is a top 3 issue right now. It's just becoming ridiculous. So I just like that. And I think he's a great marketer, and I also like people that are perceived as insane. I'm sick of I'm sick of normal, because none of these people are normal, dude. None of these people are freaking normal. None of these people.
I'll take your point. They it's an act. They pretend to be, but there's okay. So it's interesting because on one hand you're telling me like racial identity is very important, obviously, but Kanye does enough to move you beyond that.
Well, Kanye's pro-white.
Okay, so it's not that you have to be white or a certain race. It's just you have. Well, you explain to me. Explain how you.
Yeah, I mean, I am pro me and my people, first of all. And it's not to say that I don't have any empathy, and I do know what the Bible teaches about our enemies and our neighbors and other peoples, right? The poor and the sojourner, all kinds of things. But I think that in terms of politics, and that's what we're speaking about, it is really just about the us and them distinction. And it's not to say that every single one of our allies needs to always be one of us. It's that we have to be looking out for our interests primarily and others secondarily, and our enemies like down the road. And we have to be thinking with power and alliances in mind at all times. So it kind of does work in concentric
strategic
circles.
Kanyeing is what you're saying.
Strategic Kanyeing, and he is a man of strategy. And I don't necessarily. I think that right now, true white people are under attack more than true Christians. And even though I place my faith above my race, they have neutralized Christianity in a way so they don't have to go after it, but they have not done that with white people. And they get really, really upset when whites start to wake up to stuff. And I think that Kanye's starting to wake up whites. I think that something about how much they hate him and how much madness he induced into the system is worth the trade-off, given that we don't have a white guy that's based and actually right-wing and actually a nationalist even in the picture. It's just a calculus that, I can draw charts. It's like something outweighs this, but if there's now it's complicated and there's a lot of time between now and then. Yeah. But I just view this conservative civic nationalist close to the center thing as in a lot of ways worse for America than the far left at this point.
What the?
How dare you?
You're going to have to convince me on this Kanye business, but there's time.
Much time.
Real quick, because I got to get back into the story here. But who's your realistic candidate?
That's interesting.
Is there one?
Yeah, I would have to think about it. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to see some sort of list. I'm a never Vancer. I can tell you that.
What about does Rand Paul count as realistic, or is he too?
No, I will say this. I love Thomas Massey.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Thomas Massey. I consider him to be about the only decent man in Congress. And I will say, as a person that loves to disrespect the system and hope that it crashes in a lot of ways, I would like Trump shredding the Constitution and just naming himself king. Like that would be cool.
I thought you were an anti-Trump guy, or you just
but
it's the king
also,
principle.
Yeah, and it's just the principle of it. He's an institution at this point. I know that Trump is good long term for the economy. The Republicans that I oppose, obviously, they're better for the economy. And I also just the institution of Trump as an American alpha, combined with if he were just like, I'm now king and it's barren after me, that would be just the most epic moment in American history. It would be a truly Caesar. It would be the movement from a republic as it was to a true empire, and that would just be. I just love epic history because just to see that.
You're more for the moment, you just want to see the thing.
I love the moment,
all right.
the drama of the moment.
That's why you were there. That's why they put you in jail.
Yes.
All right. So back to the story here. What happened in Hootie group chat was Mike Waltz, the national security advisor. He creates this Signal group chat that includes all these figures. They're discussing and coordinating their airstrikes on the Houthis in Yemen. They're going to hit on March 15th. And somehow, some way, Jeffrey Goldberg over at The Atlantic, the guy who is behind the Suckers and Losers hoax and other notable hoaxery, he gets included in the chat. But nobody noticed that he was in the chat. And so Jeffrey Goldberg is just sitting there apparently for days, just kind of observing this and letting it play out. He didn't say anything until Monday, as in this week Monday, when the action that happened in Yemen is long over. There's not really a risk of compromising the mission or anything like that. And for all the talk of legal problems, like, there's a pending lawsuit now. I'll talk about that in a minute. Perhaps they violated some kind of records keeping law or something like that. There's not really a legal problem here. It's mostly just embarrassing. And there's a lot of comparisons to Hillary Clinton. Like, you guys complained about Hillary Clinton, and then look what happens there. Well, as far as we've seen, there's no classified information here. It's just a bunch of guys talking about how this is going to play out. And so we don't necessarily, at least yet, we don't have a classified information issue. We don't necessarily have a records preservation issue, although they're trying to make one. Based on what I've seen, this is not really a legal thing. It's just an embarrassment thing. Like, if you guys are the highest levels of the presidency, the White House, the executive branch, and you're talking about military strategy and striking an enemy, you probably should know exactly who's in the group chat and who's collecting this information, and you didn't. So it's embarrassing, and there's an element of incompetence there, and all of that. It's not to minimize that. It's just to say I don't think this is like a lock them up type scenario. And you had John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, speaking to this before Congress yesterday, and there's this pending lawsuit includes a claim that Signal is not a valid use for communications of this type, or at least potentially not a valid communication platform. Now, Signal, if people don't know, that's an encrypted messaging app, generally more secure or harder to crack than your usual text messaging or other apps. Now, called before Congress to explain what happened, this was yesterday. CIA Director John Ratcliffe says, "Yeah, when I got to the CIA, they put Signal on my computer. They put Signal on my phone." And the prior administration used Signal too. This is standard. It's not some scheme to avoid records compliance or anything like that.
So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Okay, so everybody's using Signal. It's not a big deal. And that's his perspective. It sounds like they've been using Signal at the federal government for quite a while. So really the scandal here is, how did Jeffrey Goldberg get into the chat? And according to Jeffrey Goldberg, he received this invitation on Signal on March 11th, and it came from Mike Waltz, who's the national security advisor, and he accepted, and then eventually got included into this chat. And he just, like I said, he just didn't say anything. I'm just here hanging out, just lurking in the Houthi bombing chat. And that could imply that Mike Waltz had some kind of existing relationship with Jeffrey Goldberg, like, hey, my buddy over at the Atlantic, I want to clue him in on what's going on with the Houthis. Waltz is denying that. So I've never actually talked to Jeffrey Goldberg in any meaningful way. So somehow, whoever he intended to invite to Houthi group chat didn't get that invitation. Jeffrey Goldberg got that invitation instead. Here was Mike Waltz explaining what happened last night.
I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was on the chat?
So the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Okay. So on Signal, anybody can name themselves anything they want. Did Jeffrey Goldberg deceive his way in? Was it just a mistake? Maybe there are two similar contacts in Mike Waltz's phone, and he mixed them up. Some people wonder, could it have been some kind of setup? As in, there was a number stored on Waltz's phone that was labeled something else, but it's actually Jeffrey Goldberg's number. It's all kind of unclear. But that's really the controversy of this story, is the access. Is it all incompetence? Was there deception? Do you have any thoughts on that? Who's to blame for Jeffrey Goldberg in the Houthi chat?
There's so many angles to this, but I mean, first of all, if we just take it at face value, it makes the system and the regime and government itself look so stupid. And I like that, but I don't buy this story for 1 second. Not for so 1 second.
When you say you don't buy, what's the part you don't buy?
These are people that are guarding trillions of dollars of nuclear secrets and military things. This guy got added on purpose, and everything that they said they wanted him to see. I don't think Jeffrey Goldberg is in on it. I think that this is the national security advisor. He's like, yuck, yuck. You know, sometimes I just hit the wrong. You ever had the fat finger on your phone? It's like, come on, man. This is the most retarded story I've ever seen in my life, man.
But there are a lot of retards in the government. I could believe.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but yet they never do anything this retarded. And it's not, causation is not correlation. Fox News is basically Trump state propaganda, and they trot out their messaging there. And here's the thing, the big picture for me, we all lived through COVID. We all don't trust the government. We all lived through this cycle every couple years, and everyone's like, but they said this thing and we believe it. And we know the media lies. We know that people lie. We know that the Trump regime has lied. It's a regime. It doesn't even that's not even why I dislike
What would they
them.
gain, though? Are they just trying to like embarrass Goldberg, or what are they trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The deeper you get into like the motivation psychology side of things, we don't need an answer to that question to know that something just doesn't add up. And I just don't buy them leaking their military plans to the press and doing like a modern blaming it on like a modern dad moment. You're like, oh, sorry, honey. Like, that is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But wasn't the Podesta password like password 123 or something like that? I'm telling you, like the depths of the incompetence are fairly deep, I think.
Yeah, when you get into, see, I don't even know if that's real. I think I've become so, I don't know, so anti-partisan or I just am not on a team necessarily. And I don't view, like maybe the Podesta thing's fake. I'm not sure. The further back you go, you don't know. This just is not. Here's another thing I was going to say about it. The reason it doesn't pass the sniff test is because if you look at, crime videos or whatever, when someone's acting like a cop, they're like, hello, sir, I have money for your drugs. Will you come over here with these illegal drugs that you have my money for?
Yeah.
And it reads like that. They're like, we will strike this at that time. Yes, confirmed. I just don't like that Europe looks bad.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I actually thought the JD Vance stuff read kind of authentically. Like, hey, I don't know that the president is right about this, and it's sort of inconsistent with what he said about X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I'm not saying everybody didn't sound scripted, but I read that as authentic, but maybe not.
I think someone just said in the chat that it could be an op to get rid of Waltz. I also think it could be an op to paint JD Vance as some kind of reasonable guy. And
they're always trying to make him seem reasonable, despite that Usha.
Dude,
she must be behind it in some way.
Gay, dude. Like JD Vance, the fattest, fakest, gayest retard ever, dude.
Hey,
like,
I think JD Vance has zemped out nicely. No, I don't know if he's using Ozempic. He's a lot trimmer than he used to be, though.
That's right, he has, but he still has those fat jowls. But yeah, I mean, look, it's just my opinion. If I'm proven to be wrong, that's fine. That's and I'm way less conspiratorial than I've ever been in my life. Half my show is shitting on conspiracy people at this point, but this one is so weird and it just doesn't pass the sniff test to me. But I will say that it does make me feel good that at the same time that me and my bros are being racist in the group chat, there are high levels of these people also in a group chat, which is, I don't know, it just makes me feel human, makes me feel like one of them. But yeah, I call BS on this one.
If it is as presented, I kind of like, I don't like the idea of having unauthorized people with access to this sort of thing, but the idea of authentic back and forth among coworkers in the same way we all do, that is kind of cool. I do kind of, it's a very, back in the day in the founding era, they all had to like write letters, and this is, I suppose there's something nice about that formality too, but sometimes it is cool to realize like, wow, they operate just like me and my friends do. It's kind of interesting. But did you see who, so I mentioned there's a legal challenge. This is one of those like stupid Hail Marys. We're going to sue them for some reason. Who knows why? But did you see who's on the case? Judge Boasberg in DC, the guy who tried to turn the planes around of the Venezuelan gang members. The case is assigned to him because something called American Oversight, which I gather is some kind of nonpartisan watchdog, that's what they bill themselves as. They're alleging a violation of the Federal Records Act because of this signal use, and the Administrative Procedures Act because they're conducting government business on an app that has auto-erasing features. Now, did they actually delete any of these messages? We have no evidence of that. And so they're trying to make this records preservation claim without any evidence that records have actually been deleted. Now, my understanding of Signal, which I use, is that the auto delete feature in there you have to enable. By default, it is not erasing messages. So we're just going to try to bully people into using certain messaging apps, I gather, is the point of this lawsuit.
Well, I will say that it was interesting. I got a message on Signal just 5 minutes ago from Matt Christiansen saying bomb Yemen in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So
it turns out it was Jeffrey Goldberg posing as me, actually.
That's right. I don't know what to think anymore.
Is what it was. All right. We'll keep it moving here. There's a couple things I want to get to before we get into calls. So Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, as I mentioned, the representative for Waffle House. She has been on this influential run lately. She's like picking fights with Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress and Nancy Mace. And I don't know about you, but I'm waiting for the Mace v. Crockett throwdown. That is going to be exciting if it ever happens out on those Capitol steps.
Now we're talking. In South Korea and the Slavic countries, they throw down in Congress, man. I love it. I would pay to see it, dude. I would fund it myself.
I am no Crockett fan. I'm not a Nancy Mace fan either, but I'll take Crockett. My money's on Crockett if that fight ever happens. But Crockett has had all these amazing moments on CNN. She claims black women are the most educated demographic. I spent some time digging into that to figure out how she could even say that. And as you'd imagine, it is
like how she's able to say that, like given she's illiterate, or
physically how she's able to
how is she
enunciate
able to do
those words. But yeah, when you dig into like how they're even claiming it or trying to claim it, it's hilarious. Also said white supremacists are committing 80% of the violent crime in this country. She looked it up. It's true. And this week she's really stepping it up. So first, she calls for the punching of Ted Cruz. Yep. She's responding to a question about how Democrats should strategize to win in Texas. And she's talking about the guy who ran against Ted Cruz for Senate last year. His name is Colin Allred. And he's way too nice, she says. And so what you got to do if you want to win, you got to knock Ted Cruz over the head hard to be victorious.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. I think, and I love Colin, and I think towards the end he started to punch a little harder. But it's Ted Cruz. I mean, this dude has to be knocked over the head, hard, right? There is no niceties with him. At all. You go clean off on him, right?
Okay. And when Jasmine Crockett says that, I assume she's talking about that proper Waffle House form where you take the left hand, you grab the hair, you take the right hand and you do the hammer punch downward.
That's right.
I assumed that's what she was talking about, but she's going with this. No, I meant metaphorically. I'm talking about metaphorically punching Ted Cruz in the head so that he loses. So he loses in the next election. Mm-hmm. And Pam Bondi comes out, Attorney General, and she's warning Jasmine Crockett. Between saying that you want Elon Musk taken down and now talking about punching Ted Cruz in the head, she told Jasmine Crockett to tread carefully. And this is a really weird clip from Pam Bondi, okay? Because Pam Bondi is a law enforcement, she's the top federal prosecutor, obviously, head of the DOJ. So for Pam Bondi to be coming out and talking about not federal investigation or pending charges, but just saying, ma'am, you really should apologize, that's not really the role of the Justice Department, but here she is.
What she said about Senator Cruz. I believe she probably will be censured by Congress for saying that. She has to apologize immediately and denounce the violence.
So I guess Attorney General is just top apology demander now. That's her role. Go on Hannity and say, how dare you? Mm-hmm. You seen any Epstein, truckloads of Epstein documents lately, Pam Bondi? I'm still waiting on that. You have a theory on what's going on with that stuff?
with the Epstein, I don't really know. I mean, but I love this story. First of all, I just, it's kind of no matter what black people say, they have such good delivery, dude. Like, I can't help but...
I don't know if you've seen Crockett, but she has really rehearsed hers. Like, when she got to Congress, she spoke very professionally. And somehow she got more ghetto in Congress. Now, you have D.C. experience. I really don't. Mm-hmm. So maybe that is natural in D.C. I don't know. You tell me.
I mean, I watch the NBA, dude. Blacks work on their game, dude. So, she used to be one way, and now she's like, and
yeah.
I like what I like the way it sounds. I don't know, but what she has to say, yeah, I mean, that's one of the crazy. I mean, what are the other ones?
Just to recap, though, preserving whiteness is paramount, but Kanye and Crockett are.
Dude, I'm a complicated man. Right. I have a rap album, bro. I'm a basketball American.
I know that you are a talented musician, so I'm not surprised to learn that your skills are versatile in that regard. Yeah.
I am what I am, but yeah, I mean, this is actually one of the craziest ones. I mean, they go low, we kick them or whatever. Over the years, there's been several Democrat high profile innuendos or, allusions to violence, but she just says it here. It's so funny that there's still this thing on the left where no matter how big of a wuss someone is, they are threatened by them. Like, Ted Cruz is the biggest cuck ever, dude. And it's like, okay, that's
Ted
the
do?
bad.
I like beautiful Ted. What did he do wrong? Did he marry an Indian too?
Stopped his daughter from becoming trans. Let's start there.
How is that cucky?
No, I mean, stopped her from keeping her gender that she was born with.
Wait, what's Ted Cruz?
You're saying Ted Cruz has like a gay, or as I said something.
You can say whatever you want.
Ted Cruz has like a fag daughter or something like that, dude. Let me look it up.
I guess I don't. Yeah, I'm unaware.
Not American, Canadian, Israel shill. Ted Cruz is a cock, dude. I mean. I don't know, but also there needs to be, all jokes aside on the fighting in Congress, there needs to be some professionalism, like some decorum somewhere. And if the madness doesn't stop soon, it's just gotten so low that I don't know whether to become a full Clapsitarian or not.
If you're going to talk this way, you got to do it, okay? I'll take your point. I would like a restoration of a country of dignity and integrity and all those things. We're kind of at this halfway point, like you're talking about, where it's just a bunch of degenerate talk. And there's plenty of degenerate action, too. I wouldn't say that that's lacking necessarily. But what I mean is, if you're going to talk about beating people's asses, eventually you got to beat an ass. And we're waiting for that.
I wonder, because, in the Civil War, that one guy got beat with a cane in Congress. Bad.
I don't know that. I guess I'll have to look that up.
His name's Charles Sumner, and it was over a slavery debate in Congress before the Civil War. And it's funny how they were less civilized then, as in they would throw down without thinking, but they were all gentlemen and way more civilized, well-read, and articulate. And now it seems like they should be fighting more, but they never
that's the
fight.
Thing is, like, it's what's the saying about an armed society is a polite society in the context of guns? You don't necessarily have to have guns, though. Like, if you know a guy can and will beat your ass, and sometimes it happens, you tend to be more polite because the risk is much more real. I'm not advocating the beating of asses necessarily, except for Jasmine Crockett, who talks about it. But what I'm saying is, like, when there are credible threats of accountability in that way, people tend to avoid those consequences more seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing, and I like boundaries being pushed. So the Democrats can get away with stuff like this, and one of the problems is the Republicans never stop them. That's why I'm so anti-Republican. They never do anything.
What if Ted Cruz beat Jasmine Crockett's ass? Would that fix it for you?
I would endorse. It would endorse day one.
Well,
unironically.
I'm glad to see that you are a man of principle, and these people can win you back.
I mean for office, not the behavior.
Oh, okay.
That would be a tacit endorsement.
Well, So Pam Bondi comes out and says, "Ma'am, you better apologize." And Jasmine Crockett comes out and denies that she was talking about violence at all, and says, "If you're worried about terrorism, you should go arrest, Stephen Baker again for January 6th stuff."
Just in case the slow people listening decide to clip this up later, I just want to say that I have never promoted violence whatsoever. Yet I've also never made excuse for those violent actors such as the ones on January 6th. So Pam Bondi, if you have an issue with terrorism, maybe you should talk to your boss about locking back up those guys that he let out that participated in January 6th.
Yeah, she's got you there, terrorist.
Dang. Shots fired, man. But she held the gun sideways, though, so it missed.
I bet Jasmine Crockett does have very poor aim. You're right.
Yeah, true.
But she probably has a very large magazine, so she makes up for it that way.
That's right.
Okay, so that's just part of the Jasmine Crockett experience this week, is the threat of violence, or at least casual discussion of violence.
Yeah.
We also have Monday night's Human Rights Campaign dinner in Los Angeles, where Crockett spoke and referenced Texas's wheelchair-bound Governor Greg Abbott as, quote, Governor Hot Wheels.
Because we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So yes.
Fucking owned, bitch.
Got him, I would say. Greg Abbott.
She did do that, yeah.
Greg Abbott was paralyzed in 1984 when he was 26 years old. He was out jogging and a tree limb fell on him. And the thing is, like I said at the top of the show, it's funny, okay? Lighten up. Greg Abbott, look, it sucks that it happened to him. I get it. All right. He is a politician, though. And I'm not going to be sad about any politician being made fun of for any reason. And it's funny. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But there's a lot of pearl clutching about this that actually irritates me. Like, oh, how dare you? Like, whatever. Everybody makes jokes about politicians and they're funny. Can we? It's like, I have at least a little bit of appreciation for John Fetterman because he's like the last funny Democrat.
Yeah.
Jasmine Crockett is like having that kind of moment. Now, my problem with Jasmine Crockett is not that she called him Governor Hot Wheels. My problem is she doesn't have the courage to stand by it. And Greg Abbott needs to lean into this. I was driving around earlier today. I had the radio on. Clay and Buck was on, and they were talking about this. And they said, yes, Governor Abbott, lean into this. Put the Hot Wheels flames on your wheelchair. Just bingo. Become Governor Hot Wheels. Lean into it. I would love it if Greg Abbott leaned into this.
Is he able to do that? Like, is he able to lean, or is it just below the waist, or what?
Well, like Jasmine Crockett, I was speaking metaphorically. But if you are curious about his medical condition, he is, he's paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay. Dang.
So, God, if we could just get to a point where people could laugh a little bit more, I'd appreciate that. Even if I don't have to love Jasmine Crockett to reject the pearl clutching. But the problem is Jasmine Crockett doesn't even have the courage to stand by her own commentary. And as I said at the top, she's doing the worst thing possible. You can say, everybody lighten up. It was a joke. Chill out. That's what I would favor. You can cave to the pressure and you can say, I'm very sorry for the insensitive things that I said. You can do that too. You can't say, oh, you've all misunderstood me. Actually, I wasn't talking about his condition at all. What I meant was that Governor Abbott is famous for putting migrants on planes, trains, and automobiles to ship them out of Texas and around the country. Yes, Hot Wheels, famous for their planes and trains. Are they hot wings? Are they hot tracks? This is the worst possible course of action. To act like you didn't mean what you obviously meant. I hate when people do this. And so, Jasmine Crockett, you had me for a moment, but you lost me entirely again.
How do people live a life of lies like this? Her supporters know, we know, she knows, the press knows, everybody knows, and this is going to stand as, I don't know, some sort of record in 10 years, and everyone's going to still be like, that didn't happen, and then I can't live a life of lies like that, man.
Well, you're the one
Not
who was
cool.
trying to delete your stream and ban people in the chat. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, again, that was one of the biggest mistakes in my life.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta learn the hard
that
way,
was
I guess.
that was the one of the turning points for me. Yeah, I feel icky about that now. you
Yeah,
know?
totally. I get what you're saying, and yeah, yeah, and that's why it's so irritating. Like it's obviously not true, but there's a certain level of it. Just it's wrong because it's not true, but it's wrong because it lacks self-respect in that way too.
Yes.
Like, come on. You know what you meant. Be courageous and say, yeah, I made a joke. Maybe some of you think it went too far, but fuck off. It's funny. And if you don't think it's funny, then I guess you hate me, but that's fine. Deal with it.
Yes. Yeah, we have the exact same position on this. There's just nothing gayer than but I mean, okay, come on. Just own it. You'd be funny. And I guess it's good for people, I mean, like me, because just keep in mind, your liberal chat keeps calling me a leftist or something like that. But I also don't like the Democrats. I'm attacking this from the right.
Dude, you are everything and nothing at the same time. I'm so confused by your philosophy. It's like
it requires many hours.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of communism and anarcho-capitalism together meshed into the perfect system where everything, all the finest features are emphasized and all the drawbacks are reduced.
Honestly, I actually am completely the inverse of that. If you want to understand my worldview, it's extremely anti-communist, but also extremely anti-liberal and anti-capitalist. And I consider all these things to be right-wing issues. So that's really what it is. I'm opposed essentially to both sides of the winners of World War II.
Wait, who should have won? Kanye should have won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
But Hitler's not Kanye. They're distinct.
We'll talk about that one another time. We'll chamber that one.
Where's the? You remember when Kanye was on InfoWars and that famous segment, or it was a long time, but he said like I love Hitler or I like Hitler.
And the way he's like I love Hitler.
I thought I had that one in here somewhere on the soundboard, but I think it's lost. That was a great one. I like Hitler. It was when they were going to break too. Alex Jones was like, "Well, let's be realistic. Nobody actually likes Hitler." Whatever he was saying. I like Hitler, and then the InfoWars graphic just comes up on the screen.
Now,
Classic
way
moment.
more people than you know do, and way more people than ever before do, and all the most famous people are like JFK was pro-Hitler. He's the most popular guy in the world in the 30s, so I'll just put it that way. I'm not the biggest mind on him, but I just consider primarily both communism and capitalism are opposed to Christianity. And that's my main reason. All jokes aside,
that's interesting. That does make sense. Where it's like any philosophy that superimposes that is faulty. I can see where you're coming from in that regard. Yeah.
And also, I will ally up with other people that recognize that, even if they're not Christian. That's the counterintuitive part of it.
Well,
it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about that a little bit before, and obviously I think certain forms of government are better than others, and I tend to be a fan of the American design, the constitutional design. Not tend to be, I am. I think it is very well drafted, and it is the system I would install if I were in charge. However, to your point, if you have a morally rotten, degenerate people and you apply the Declaration principles or the Constitution legal structure, it's not going to work. You need people of a moral core, and a people of a moral core can mask not all, but a lot of flaws in a governmental structure. Like you could have an abusive government over a solid people of moral fortitude, and you'd rather have that than like a morally square government. We kind of have that right now. Like in principle, a morally square government. I'm not saying our current government is great, but I'm saying in principle, the design is morally square, even if we deviate from that. Applied to a rotting populace, that doesn't work because you can't have the government installing virtue in people in that way.
Yes. I mean, you can, but not in this way. And that's a huge topic. I'm actually talking about that tomorrow during my stream. But yeah, I just think that many people just don't have a memory before World War II. That's what the big problem. There's the World War II and there's the Civil Rights Movement, and it's like people frame their history. People are saying this in the chat. They literally cannot imagine a system out of these two. But all successful systems before the Enlightenment were basically authoritarian, right wing, either monarchy or a totalitarian, or all these successful societies in Europe for thousands of years would have been called fascist today, would have been called something terrible today. So one of the problems with liberalism is it presents itself not as the right system now, as the only eternally moral system ever. Anything outside of human rights and the Bill of Rights and free speech and freedoms, which didn't exist for all of human history until very recently, all things considered. I mean, I just try to think in centuries and 500 and millennia timeframes rather than just thinking inside of my life or my parents' lives. But 100 years ago, every person listening right now would have been called a communist, and they would have been right. And I just see things from a traditional historic perspective. I can't believe that people can't imagine. So people are saying, what system is left? Every system before the Enlightenment. That's my answer to it. So I and mainly the capitalist thing is, dude, usury is evil. Interest is evil. God calls it an abomination in the Bible. So when you have a system that's based on overt, abominable sin, I'm going to roll out, just like Greg Abbott, on any system that doesn't.
No, you
I'm
mean
sorry.
Fly out. It was clearly an airplane reference.
I love Christ. I love his teachings more than our modern paradigm. I love him more than my relationships. I love him more than my hatred that I was taught for Adolf Hitler. It's not that I even care that much about that. It's that I take the Bible very seriously. I think it's eternal, and I think that the way it's interpreted in this modern era is just straight from Satan. Is we put our modern stamp on these things and call it, exegesis, and it just isn't. People are really more worshiping the spirit of this age, which is Enlightenment values, and it's essentially Judeo-feminism. Like, that's basically the spirit of this age that people love. They don't know it by those names, but it's usury, it's equality, it's sameness, it's that men and women are interchangeable, that race is interchangeable, and you can replace people groups with people groups and get the same outcome that the original people group got. It's insanity.
Yeah, so, the notion of equality, I would certainly agree, has been warped beyond recognition. And I would agree that people are equal in their rights before God, but obviously people are not interchangeable in talent, ability, moral character. They're not equal in that way. It doesn't mean like better than or worse than in their value as people and their right to life and all of that. But yeah, equality as in everyone should have the same outcome regardless of whatever their contributions or talents or efforts, or it is complete insanity, and that has been warped beyond any sense of truth, I think. But
yeah.
Last thing before we get to the callers, and thank you for your patience, callers. I will be with you shortly. We've got obviously we got a lot of deep topics tonight, so we'll get back into your calls very soon. But I gotta catch up on
because we in these hot
I do that
ass
once a stream. I always forget to disable a clip, and I accidentally play a clip once a stream. You'll get used to it as you hang out here more. Anyway, okay, so we've had a lot of basketball American talk tonight, so we're going to continue with basketball American talk, and that is the NBA, and specifically, it is the return of the deep vein thrombosis.
Deep vein thrombosis, DVT.
And you're telling me that you don't know what a DVT is? Is that correct?
I don't.
You have no idea.
I don't know what a thrombosis is at all.
Okay, so people who listen to my stream, I'm going to try to balance this because I'm going to try to inform you what this actually is, while recognizing that people who listen to my stream regularly have heard this story a million times. So a deep vein thrombosis is a clot in the deep veins of your body. Generally, it happens in like your lower leg, like it did for me, but it can happen all over. It can happen in your shoulder. It can happen in your upper leg. And these form, and they can be, first of all, they're very painful, and it kind of disables the limb, at least it did for me. But the danger is that clot can go straight to your lungs and cause a pulmonary embolism. You could potentially die.
Wow.
And so for me, I'll give you the quick recap of what happened to me in Labor Day 2023. Now, if you've ever like rolled an ankle, sprained an ankle, anything like that, you ever had that kind of injury where your ankle swells up and it's all bruised? Like I don't know, if you ever skateboarded, it happened to me all the time when I skateboarded, or I'm sure if you play basketball, you probably roll your ankles a lot. And so for some reason, like without actually having a traumatic injury, it was as though my ankle was sprained. Like I could not walk on it. And I lived with this for like a week thinking like, do I have the most bizarre muscle soreness of all what the hell is this? It's as though I had an ankle injury, but I didn't. And it was getting swollen. Like I eventually went to the clinic because my ankle was so swollen that it was getting bruised because the capillaries in the skin were tearing from the swelling. And if you poked it, it kind of like stayed indented. Anyway, long story short, the nurse there didn't. I went in after doing some research, like, I think I have a blood clot, man. What the heck? That seems impossible. But I go into the clinic. Nurse doesn't believe me that I have a blood clot, but sends me to the ER. Sure enough, they do an ultrasound. I have a blood clot, and I'm on blood thinners for 6 months. And I see a blood specialist, and they do every test possible to try to figure out how and why my blood, as a then 35-year-old man in good health, why would I be getting a blood clot in my lower leg that is common among people who are old and who don't move? And it's generally a never event for my demographic, your demographic. And I get blood testing from a blood specialist, and she's asking me about everything in my life, like everything about my lifestyle. Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you have a history of this? Anybody in your family have that? The one thing she didn't ask me about ever, the vaccine. She never asked me about the vaccine. I never took the vaccine. So whatever happened to me, the vaccine itself is not a factor. But I got all the testing done. They still couldn't conclude. We have no idea how and why you got a blood clot. Okay. And to this day, I haven't had any recurring symptoms. I'm fine. It's as though nothing happened, but I was on those blood thinners for 6 months. They said I could stay on them. I opted to stay off. And they said, once you get to 2 years out, which I will be in September, the risk of recurrence is very, very low. Then again, the risk of recurrence in the original clotting, or the risk of the original clotting happening, was next to zero anyway. That's why it's such a mystery. And the thing about this episode for me, and it's anecdotal, but I got a lot of emails from a lot of men of a similar age group and a similar lifestyle who have also had these DVTs, some of whom are vaccinated, some of whom are not. And why that's weird, even anecdotally, like when I say that, I'm saying maybe like 10 people, something like that, emailed me over the course of several months. But why that's weird, even in a small sample size, is again, this is like a never event for younger people who weigh less than 400 pounds and walk around once a day. Okay, that's the context of DVT. Okay. And that brings us to what's going on in the NBA, because DVT has now hit the NBA. On Tuesday, the Milwaukee Bucks announced star guard Damian Lillard has a
deep vein thrombosis, DVT.
The clot is in his calf, like it was for me, and he's going to miss some time. And this follows Spurs star Victor Wembanyama, who was also diagnosed with
deep vein thrombosis, DVT.
This one is in his shoulder, and he's out for the year. And you read this Yahoo story, and again, like, well, actually, look at all these players in the history of the NBA who had DVTs, and they name these obscure cases. Like, the NBA's been going on for like 75 years, and you guys dug to find like 3 people who had it or something like that. Because all these
are modern players too. I know all these players. They're all modern.
The oldest one in here is 2024. Is there like a 2013? Yeah,
these are all in the last 15 years.
2012. Serena Williams is in here. And so they're saying like, well, something about NBA players tend to have long limbs and they sit on planes when they travel and all this nonsense. But the key is actually right here. Deep vein thrombosis is most common in people who are older who do not exercise much. So how is it that these basketball players now are just getting weird blood clots? And we're acting like this is normal and there's nothing to see here. It's not normal. Something is happening in my experience with men getting bizarre blood clots in their limbs in ways that we have not seen before. And I would like to just blame the vaccine. I never got the vaccine though. And I know a lot of guys who have had this who didn't get vaccinated either. And I wonder if the virus itself is responsible for some of this.
That's a trip, dude. Yeah, this is I don't know. I'm not a big specific medical mind. I'm not a big medical mind at all. I like, just eat whatever I want, and I like to work out. But I mean, there's something going on with health in America. I mean, people get very conspiratorial about this, and I don't blame them. The food is lower quality. The things we wear are lower quality fabric. I'm not necessarily blaming this, but I do know that there's something really up. People age faster. There's something definitely up with the health and the things we consume. There's extra waves in the airwaves. Something's definitely up. COVID was part of it. I probably won't research it beyond what I have already, just because I try to eat as, I don't know what you do about it, because we have to travel, we have to eat, we have to live.
Yeah.
And I can understand on this type of stuff how people get super conspiratorial. I just don't go there because I focus on other things, but it's weird stuff.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And now like I said, I haven't had any problems since, but every time I get like just a little sting in my calf muscle, you just feel a weird little twitch or something. Like, oh no, it's coming again.
You make it up in your brain.
Yeah,
You start like feeling it when it's not there.
It's like I can't manifest another DVT into my calf. Anyway. All right. You ready to take some calls?
Yeah, love it.
Okay, let me get myself unmuted. Appreciate the patience from the callers here. And of course, super chatters, we will get to you momentarily. We got some email questions too. But let's get to Turles. Turles, are you there?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
We are well. What's on your mind?
Okay, well, real quick option. I had lined up some rather innocuous book recommendation discussion, but given your guest, I thought I would also offer the option for some argument maybe and talk about white supremacy and Jew-spurging.
Okay.
So, which would you prefer?
Oh, I got to pick the latter. You can't.
Right.
Would you like boring books
right,
or like crazy controversial race talk?
Yeah. Oh, all right. Let's get into it.
Not to dismiss your books, by the way. I'm sure they're very good.
They're excellent. But yeah. All right. So I do. I'll just say at the outset, I find. Listen, I have a lot of opinions myself that no doubt the left would consider racist. Or something along those lines, or maybe even anti-Semitic. I have opinions like we ought to ban maybe infant circumcision. Which I do think is a practice that it has biblically seen its time, just like animal sacrifice, and it's just not. It doesn't have a good justification anymore, but. So I do have those opinions to some extent, and yet I find white supremacists and people who talk about nothing but Jews all the time pretty exhausting. I find it to be kind of, as Stephen was mentioning earlier, it's very nihilistic. It's fundamentally anti-intellectual. It doesn't really find its position rooted in principle so much as kind of a savage, barbaric sense of tribalism, and it just I don't understand why we should give so much room to that sort of thing. I think
finish your thought, and then I'll let Stephen respond if he wants to.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to say, there's a hierarchy of values. My allegiance to God, for example, would mean that I'm more loyal to somebody like Joshy Boy, right? A fellow Christian who happens to be black, and that my allegiance to that person is much higher than to somebody like, Joe Biden, who happens to be white.
What do you mean? Like he loves Jesus.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah,
the man who really ought to have been excommunicated by now, but
All right. Well, Stephen, did you want to respond to that or leave it be?
No, I'll respond for sure. And
okay.
I appreciate your point of view. The thing is fundamentally we're talking about politics here. And when we talk about politics, politics is the governing of groups of people. And I understand that groups of people are, they're by definition groups of individuals, but when there are groups of people, they do take on a different character than just the individuals alone. And any example about one Christian or one Jew or one African it misses the point about what we're trying to do here when we talk about politics. And here are the facts. Gender, race / ethnicity, depending on how big or small of the group, and religion are parts of the human condition, and they are immutable in a lot of cases, and they're identitarian in all cases. I mean, let's say, you do choose your faith, you don't choose your race, and you don't choose your gender. But other than faith, these are all parts of a person's identity. And as I explained earlier, and to be, I am a little bit put off by saying nothing but talking about these things, because if you play back the tape, I've talked about all kinds of things, and I mention these things as essential pieces and as things that we have to consider in our calculus. But the only people, the more ridiculous position is to say things that like race and religion don't matter, which is basically the liberal position. So what I'm talking about, it's not about spurging, it's not about white supremacy, I guess, other than that I do think that your own people should be supreme to yourself because they're your people, in the same way that your kids or your family, you are psychotic if you place other kids and other families over those. And this is true. So you could even say that I'm a Japanese supremacist or even a Jewish supremacist, because I think if you are a Jew, it's kind of weird to not put Jews first. Now, I think that all Jews should repent of being a Jew and just become a Christian, but that has nothing to do with spurging, has nothing to do with placing myself necessarily over others. And to the extent that maybe you could say, I think white people are better, it's simply because I look at history and the utter domination of Europeans over history for all or most of observable human history. Blacks point that out. Every ethnicity points that out, and many ethnicities, they count it. They're grateful to be, receiving the spoils of white excellence. So I just think that it completely misses the point, and it does play into the Enlightenment paradigm of I know a guy, and this is just out of board. It's anti-intellectual, but trust me, brother, I've done my research. I speak like an idiot for a reason. I'm a stand-up comedian. And I speak this way for a reason, in part to shock people. And there's a reason that people that don't know me, I come off as stupid, and people that do, they listen to what I say. And I'm not, I love black people. I love all people. I love all races. It's just
He's
not
a black
about
supremacist with the NBA for sure.
Dude, some of my favorite people are black supremacists, man, because they get what's going on.
I appreciate the back and forth between you guys. I just want to make sure I keep it going here. But real quick, Steven, do you want to finish any thought I may have cut off there, and then I'll give Turles the last word.
That'll do. It's just really not about spurring or what you have to do if you're going to call me anti-intellectual is you have to spar with the fact, not with me, with that some of the most brilliant men in the history of everything shared my same beliefs, argue with them, argue with their books. Many of them were Germans. Many of them influenced the Nazis, and many Americans at the time of the Nazis were pro-Nazi, like some of your favorite people. So you have to spar with more of human history, the history of books. The race has been a part of everything until very recently. What's the true anti-intellectual take is being race blind.
All right, Turles, who are your favorite Nazis? Go. No, I'm kidding. But if you do want a quick response, I'll give you one. Or if you'd like to end your call, that's fine too.
No, I do have just a quick response, and I would venture to say, look, I do want to spar with most or much of human history, because a good amount of that was purely savage, right? It was like Tennyson's red in tooth and claw. It wasn't civilized, and I think that America in particular hit upon a way of doing things that is new and that is frankly better. And I honestly don't care if take slavery for example. If in all of human history we've always had slavery, now we don't. I don't think that this is worse. I do think it's better. And any kind of philosophy that leads me to say Hitler was cool, actually, I'm just not going to agree with that.
So you're opposed to the founding fathers?
I really don't think the founding fathers would have thought Hitler was cool, no.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they were pro-slavery. They were pro-white people. The first immigration policy.
Some of them were very much anti-slavery, like Thomas Jefferson.
Dude, you're just illiterate, bro. You don't know that. You don't know the founding fathers.
This is a subject I know quite a lot about. So
okay, what was the first immigration policy? What was the first immigration policy in the United States?
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Jefferson was anti-slavery. He wrote
This is what they do.
A clause into the Declaration of Independence that was anti-slavery, and the southern states forced him to keep it out.
So Jefferson was our king, and we should just follow him. What about the actual? I thought you believe in like the rule of law. The first immigration policy, since you don't know what it is, was free white men of good moral character. That was the only people that were supposed to be Americans for a long time. So you're opposed to the founding fathers,
and for good reason. But because
you're a white supremacist.
Wait, let's let it. Well, hold on. Let's let him respond.
Okay,
I appreciate the back and forth you guys say. I just want to keep it.
I was just going to say for good reason, and that's because you have to understand how the franchise worked back then. They didn't, it wasn't extended in many cases to people who didn't own land, who weren't educated, who, and slaves simply would not have been considered qualified, and this is generally like non-white people, right? Would not have been considered qualified for the franchise. And this is, and I can agree on certain aspects of this, right? I believe in a limited franchise, but that does not mean that everything that was acceptable, culturally speaking, in a moment in time, is really defensible. When we're talking about the sort of timeless principles here.
Let's all just agree that Hitler was right about limiting the franchise. Can we find common ground there? I do appreciate this back and forth, but I probably gotta end it there.
Thanks for your call, man.
Yeah,
all right.
and yeah, thanks you for. I really appreciate it. It's it's never easy to call in and challenge, and I like that you did that. So thank you for that back and forth.
Oh, sure thing.
All right.
All right.
Ratchet Republican, our favorite Jamaican around here, Steven. Let's see if he's there. Ratchet, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I like what he's doing. The thing that's giving me pause is the tariffs. I really don't like tariffs. I'm more of a free trader, along with Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman. As with much government policy and government solutions, it tend to benefit the few, but cost the many. And I believe that these tariffs will cost a lot of the American people, most of the American people. It might give some jobs to the few, but it will cost the American people in terms of raising prices. I don't understand why Trump feels the need to interfere in the economy. I think that Donald Trump should be focusing more on cutting government expenses, cutting government, and focus more on that, focus on the messaging, focus on keeping the American people abreast of how they're cutting, why they're cutting, so that the American people can feel more comfortable with this change, because it's a big change. I think in the end, the tariffs are made, overshadow the good that he's doing for the country. And I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, it's a risky strategy for sure. And it's not that I'm opposed to a risky strategy. What bothers me about the tariff strategy so far is the lack of clarity. Now, you could interpret that two ways. One is like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and you don't know what you're doing. Like, I want Canada to do this and Mexico to do that, and I'm going to ambiguously threaten tariffs until they do it on ambiguous terms. Maybe the terms are known to Canada and Mexico through this negotiation, and we know less about it in the public, and so it seems ambiguous and it seems frustrating. But just as a member of the public who faces the consequences of these looming tariffs, say just in market downturn or the prospect for higher costs, those sorts of things. It would be nice if we could see like, hey, it's going to be tariffs on Canada and Mexico unless conditions X, Y, and Z are met. Now,
Yes.
I guess for now, pre-April 2nd, I'm going to choose to believe that there's some sort of strategy intended here, and I'm going to choose to believe that there is a short-term pain for long-term gain type approach. But I do share your concern that tariffs as a long-term strategy are probably not good, even though, as I've mentioned many times, I would prefer tariffs as a mechanism for federal government fundraising to say the income tax. The problem is we're not going to get one or the other. If tariffs are imposed long term, it's going to be yet another tax imposed on you on top of all the existing ones. So we're going to find out like this time next week. What is it? April 2nd is the deadline. That is next Wednesday. And we're going to see what the strategy on tariffs actually is. If Trump starts jacking up tariffs on April 2nd and we don't actually know what is expected of Canada, Mexico, and the rest of them, then we probably have some problems. But I'm in wait and see mode until then.
Yeah, because if you go to YouTube, Thomas Sowell did they interviewed Thomas Sowell about tariffs, and one thing that he was saying was that if you look throughout history and you look at the economy was booming, we had trade deficits, and when the economy was doing well, we had trade. When the economy was doing bad, we had trade surpluses.
Okay.
So I don't think trade surpluses or trade deficits is the sign of a good economy or a bad economy. I just think it's a solution to a problem that was created by past solutions. I think we're trying to solve a problem that was created by government intervention, and then that solution causes another problem, and then we create another government solution which creates another problem. I think we're going into this cycle. When Joe Biden became president, he chose to do the Inflation Reduction Act as a solution to the Trump spending, COVID spending, and that ballooned and inflated our economy up to 40%.
I can't believe it. I can't believe the title of the bill failed to be realized.
Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah.
Anyway, I gotta let you go there. But if you have a quick final thought, go for it.
No. I just saying that trade wars are easy to get into, but it's hard to get out of.
Yeah.
So it's that's why I'm very fearful. Hopefully, he may see the light, or hopefully it actually works. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you for the call, man. Always enjoy hearing from you.
No problem. All right.
You have any trade war thoughts? What's the most entertaining solution to trying to leverage Canada and Mexico to do what we want them to do?
Annex, but not make them states.
Okay.
Shouldn't get voting power, of course, but I mean, it's, we already run the most of the Western Hemisphere, and I just think that we should call these things. It's not necessarily about trade, but it's just about power. If we are the big dog, and we should be treating these places more like our vassal states than we already are. We give them too many privileges. I don't know how that would work out in the nuts and bolts of the back and forth, but we basically should be nationalizing other nations or being free of them.
Give them the old Hitler annexation, huh?
I think annexation
treat them like Poland.
Just a fine form of government. I see nothing wrong with it.
All right. Let's talk. This is you're here for an exciting new call. There's this guy in my chat, and his name is GR, and GR has been a super chatter for a long, long time, but I've never actually talked to GR until right now. So GR, are you there? Wait, hold on. Wait, I totally just botched that.
Left,
sorry, Discord is a difficult thing to manage. Sorry, GR, I gave you this incredible introduction and then I messed it up. But are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
That was my fault. I totally botched it. But thank you for calling in. It's nice to hear from you.
Yeah, so what's going on, my chat new guy?
Well, what do you want to talk about?
You know how it is. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
It is. I don't really enjoy your guess, though. I have some strong feelings about that.
Okay, you want to pick a fight too?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, first of all, he's using these words that are leftist buzzterms like COVID and fucking January 6th, like it's a thing. Not to mention Tesla and the way that's pronunciation, I know, but the way he also, talks about incels, that's not a thing. You can't be fucking involuntarily celibate. That's illiterate.
Well, I forget the context.
Voluntarily.
Well, okay. Let me. I'm sorry to cut you off. Why don't you finish your thought and then I'll chime in.
Celibacy as a Catholic is something you do voluntarily. A priest is celibate for the greater good. Abstinence for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can be involuntarily. That's feminist bullshit. Like he's allegedly whining about. This guy. My biggest problem is that this guy says also like if you're a fence sitter, you're the worst kind. He seems like the biggest fence sitter of all. Saying, "Oh, I don't like the left or the right."
You've hit a nerve.
I just don't like the left, man. You're all the left to me.
Okay, GR. Let me. I'll try to give this a fair format too. But is that the extent of your thoughts, or did you got more punches to throw?
No, that's about the extent.
Okay.
You're rubbing me the wrong way, man.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sorry.
Which is the strongest point that you want to make? Like you just talked about like 5 or 6 different issues and talk about buzzwords. You're just throwing cliches out there. Give me your strongest opposition.
Yeah, I'm very much into semantics. So the way you pronounce shit really bothers me. You're using the leftist
pronunciation is not semantics, Mr. Words guy.
Pronunciation. Sorry.
Yeah, pronunciation and semantics. Semantics are definitions. Pronunciation is pronunciation. So.
No, and I agree with you, but you're doing both.
So you're saying your strongest point is how I pronounce things, and which definition am I the wrongest on?
Incel.
Okay,
no
if you want to have sex and you are not having sex, you are involuntary celibate. You are not having sex. You would like to have sex.
No, because you can't be celibate. You can't be
celibate.
Can
it is an internet term.
Can I I actually don't remember the context in which you said incel tonight. Do you remember? Do either of you remember, actually, so you could refresh my memory?
Look, these people have no semblance of entertainment, show business, or anything other than pure literalism, which means they belong not on the internet, dude. I was making a joke. I would say like an incel chud. And if you don't understand the context of like a shitlord memeing in real life, just please delete your account, bro.
Delete yourself.
GR is a nice man. All right.
Okay, but you just like you don't know what rhetoric is. You don't know what exaggeration is. It's like I make a joke and you're like, this like doesn't have a right definition in my book. Like, dude, you just like study fiction, study show business, speech writing. The world doesn't work like this, man.
I mean, you could have easily said losers that don't get any. I mean, why'd you have to use some made up word like incel?
Because we hadn't spoken yet.
What you do is I say from now on, and we'll get famously.
I like the banter, but it's just like, you throw out 4 or 5 things and we could debate all of them, but that's why I asked for your strongest point. I want everyone listening right now to listen to this person's strongest point.
Yeah, no, and I understand, and I don't really want to have a debate. I just want to throw some jabs.
You came, dude. Play the tape back, yo. This guy comes in. When he gets beat, he bails.
No, well, I think it's fair to say you came in to challenge, right?
Yeah, I apologize if I said debate. No, I did not want to have a debate. It's just my first time, and I didn't have a topic, and I don't quite like you.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm not going to debate you on that. Liberals don't like me, bro. It doesn't bother me.
Anyway, well, GR, I appreciate your call. Is there a final thought you want to offer?
Yeah, I'll call back next time when you got a different host, and I'll be a bit friendlier. I apologize.
Oh no, well, you're welcome to not be friendly. And I as I said with the prior caller, I appreciate calling in and challenging. That's cool. It's fun to hear. And so I just hope no feelings are hurt. That's all. But you seem like you're a good dude.
I'm a hardcore conservative. I've been a Republican since I was 20 years old. I'm about 3 years older than you.
Okay.
So, I very much take this seriously. This isn't like a lot of people here. I know there are different types here. But, I'm not because this guy's white, it's all okay. that doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, okay. I suppose I could let Steven respond to that. I don't know that that's necessarily his position either. I don't know that whiteness makes everything okay.
Yeah, I don't like JD Vance.
That's true,
but yeah, I mean, I just, I respond with escalating force. That's all that happened during this call. If it would have been, cordial from the start, then it would have been something else. But I believe in warfare. I believe in that you set a precedent when you don't take someone at their word. And if they say something like wanting to, I don't like you, I want to challenge you. And then they're just like, but I don't want to debate. It's like, I didn't start a fight with you. I didn't start a fight with your chat. I think that your chat is liberal because they showcase liberal values. If you're a hardcore Republican conservative,
you're besmirching my chat.
I have to. I mean, because it's like conservatism is a liberal value. That's what people don't understand. Liberal, it has a technical term, and one of the wings of that.
You're blowing my mind. I feel like the what's the meme with the lady trying to follow all the things on the chalkboard?
Yeah, this is like, I mean, conservatism is the biggest echo chamber in all of human history. Like, they cannot imagine a worldview outside of theirs, but they are the right wing of liberalism. Liberals, what we call liberals.
Yeah, well, let me hold on. I'll let Steven hold on. Let me let Steven finish his thought, and then I'll come back to you.
I don't want to. Go ahead, bro.
All right.
Did you see what I picked up on? Like, I don't know, you call it a vibe, whatever. Do you see what I picked up on now? Everything he's saying now?
No, I think, listen, I think Steven's a great guy with a lot of interesting thoughts. That's why I have him on. I think that obviously I appreciate what you have to say, and I appreciate your support for my show, and I appreciate your willingness to call in and challenge. So I think that Steven is perfectly entitled to express his points. You're perfectly entitled to disagree with him, but
I use that same, that Crowder mentality. I meet force with force, blah, blah, blah. I escalate it too. I'm the same way, as you can see. And I think we kind of agree on that, at least.
Sure. You got a right to stand your ground. But
I was just saying, also, I feel kind of stupid because I already left a bunch of messages you'll see later, and they're not as friendly as this call.
Okay. Well, thank you for I've not read them yet, so thank you for qualifying, and we'll take them in that context. But you're welcome to send mean chats too. People do all the time, so that's not a problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to support your show. I want to talk to you, but I didn't know I'd have.
Well, you can
see something I didn't like tonight.
You can call back anytime you want, and thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. And of course, that's the beauty. That's what I'm aiming for, is like people of different perspective. And if you don't like this guy or you don't like that guy, that's fine. There'll be someone here next time, and someone else here next time. We can talk to someone else, or you guys can resume your debate next time too. We'll see. But
hey, bring back Joshy Boy and Lauren.
Well, all right. Are you? If I hire you as my new show director, then you can do the booking. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for calling.
All right, good night.
Whew. Well, that was entertaining. I only take 3 calls on these streams now, so hey, first of all, I appreciate people's willingness to call in and challenge. And hey, man, I really appreciate you sitting in the hot seat because I didn't necessarily expect it to go that way. So
I love this.
That was
stuff.
cool.
This is like I love this. And by the way, people, there's a lot of people wanting. Pretty cool me to explain why conservatism is liberal. I'll be talking about all this. I might even review this footage tomorrow on my show. Like, it's, dude, I mean, I love comedy and I love banter, and I'm pretty black, bro. Like, I can't stop interrupting and talking shit, dude. Like, but like, I can explain this stuff, and I'm trying to be as gracious as I can. But when someone comes at me, it's hard to resist. I don't know.
No, totally.
But I will.
This is what I'm saying. Is it's a tough spot for both people involved in this. That is to say, for you're coming into someone else's platform and having someone say like, you suck, I hate you, that sort of stuff.
You suck, fuck you.
And for callers, like you are absolutely right that in general, callers are less experienced in speaking in an online stream and stuff like that. I don't say that to take shots. It's just, I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm saying it's hard to call up a show and take that perspective. I disagree with you, and I'm going to take shots, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Everybody's putting themselves out there in that situation. I really appreciate it. It makes for good listening. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and just a word to the people calling in. Just state your positive beliefs. I mean, it's you set yourself up in an objectively weak position, especially if you mischaracterize the person you're attacking's position, as has been done. You kind of bury yourself, even if you are right, which you're not. You kind of bury yourself by trying to attack another person. Just state your beliefs and ask someone what you think about it. And then I'm in the weak position at that point because I have to spar with what I think is wrong about you, and I'll try to characterize it as well as I can. But
we'll make you wrong. You will appreciate Usha's beauty by the end of your experience on my show.
It's my chocolate sin.
I will get you. There will be an Usha poster on your wall behind you by the time you're done with this show. I promise you that. All right. I got some email questions. I know we're longer than I expected. So as I mentioned, if you got stuff to do, you're welcome to take off. But if you want to answer 3 email questions with me, you can do that. And then we'll do
I'm here for
Superchat.
the long haul, man. Yeah.
All right. Joshy Boy, our friend Joshy Boy. Hey, Matt, interesting question. Do you believe a 4-year presidency will be enough time to address and attempt to resolve the more fundamental issues of our nation? Of course, I'm speaking about overall morality. Whilst I can acknowledge that Trump has mentioned Yahweh or God here and there, his focus thus far has been on economics. I understand such a feat is important for America, but do you believe that Trump will ever attempt to bring Yahweh back into places like Congress, schools, etc.? Now, I imagine you probably have some thoughts on this. In general,
I love the usage of Yahweh, by the way.
Okay.
That's what I like. I love the usage of Yahweh.
I think you would get along with Joshy. He's actually, if you watched Sunday's stream, Joshy is the dude I had sitting shotgun on Sunday.
Cool. I enjoyed that. Yeah, and
so,
I've been reading his chats too. Seems like a good guy.
So for me, in general, I actually don't look to the president for moral leadership in that way or really seek it in that way. It's not to say I want like a degenerate as president, but I don't think that the office of the presidency is necessarily a moral leadership position strictly. I think it is a legal position with legal duties and responsibilities. Again, would I prefer a moral president to a degenerate one? Of course. But I look at that in more of like a hiring for a job type thing than like moral leadership in the same way you would find at your church or in your family. And it's not just that I think it's misplaced to try to seek it in the presidency. I think it's not really possible for the president to do that on that scale. Like if you want communities to recover morally, families to recover morally, it takes the father and the mother in that family. It takes the leader of that church congregation. The president can say nice things, but if you don't have those base building blocks, it doesn't really matter. And so even though, like, would I love for Trump to come out and speak to moral principle? I mean, is he that guy? I don't know. Like, that would be an out of character thing for Trump to do. But frankly, I'm not that concerned whether he does or not. I would like to see him stick to issues of law and economics and things that levers he can pull effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially, it might not surprise people that I think that popular sovereignty is a lie. I don't think that the people are sovereign, even when they are called sovereign. And it's okay, that's a cool fiction or whatever. But the president is essentially the king. I mean, there's one guy that's always going to sit atop of a political entity, even if you try to invent systems around that. And I just want him to be the best king possible. Some of that is moral, but a lot of that is just rooted in Deuteronomy. It says what the king should do. It says what the sovereign should do in Romans 13, in 1 Peter 4 and 5, and a couple other places in the Bible. And I want to hold him to that standard, essentially. But also, kings do kingly things. They always have. They've always had concubines. They've always had, they spread their royal oats, And I can't argue with strong men dominating society like that. And they're to me, they're not held to the same standards necessarily. Their standard is are they true to their people and their nation? And if they are not, or if they are, you can forgive many things. And if they're not, you essentially need to execute them. So that's the standard that I kind of hold the sovereign to. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Joshy. Charlie, is Canada becoming the 51st state actually desirable? Would it upset the balance of power in the U.S.? 10 states would make more sense, but that wouldn't work. Looking on a map, you can only see why Trump wants, or looking on a map, you can see why Trump wants Canada and Greenland, but we aren't in the same world as in the days of the westward expansion. Now, I don't think, like, if you were going to, whether Canada voted to join the U.S. or we annexed them or it was a hostage, whatever, however it happened, I don't think that Canada as one state, like the actual 51st state, is all that crazy. It is geographically gigantic, but the population is about the same size as California. So it's not really much more crazy than having another California, which we don't need, but I'm saying, like, in population-wise, it's actually comparable to our states, or at least the biggest one. But given the tendency of Canada toward this liberal government over the last decade plus, it certainly means more left-wing votes. You're going to have probably 2 Democrat equivalent senators coming from the state of Canada. You're going to have 40, 50 predominantly Democrat members of Congress. You do have to account for that. And in your view of the perfect Hitlerian Canadian annexation, they are what? Are they a state? They're a territory? They are a...
They're a territory. We need, like, you know, the resources. I mean, people just sleep on how resource rich Canada is, and that vast expanse of land for military strategy. I definitely, no more states, man. Just no more states, no more votes, less people, man. We need less of a lot of this stuff. But yeah, we just snatch it. We call it what it is. We liberate the whites up there. I mean, they basically replaced whites in that country in 2 generations. It's just ridiculous what happened.
Liberate them to where? The United States?
Liberate
are they
them,
liberated here is my question.
No. We free them by kicking out the non-whites.
To where? Where are you sending them?
Not here.
Okay. So anyway,
yeah, I don't know. Like it's just, you know, that's the difference between deportation and repatriation. Because when you deport someone, it means you can't be here. When you repatriate someone, you say you have to be there. So essentially, I make it their problem.
We establish a new country called Not Here. And maybe we just pick the worst U.S. state and we establish the former state of Not Here, and you have to go over there.
Yeah, and it's not to say, I'm not saying that it's just race specific, but if you are intentionally working against the interests of the host population and the nation, which is the nation itself, you can't be a citizen. You can't be here. You can't be treated by the same rules if you're subverting the host nation. That's the rules of every nation other than Western ones. Try playing this everyone can be Japanese thing in Japan. Watch what happens. Try playing this in any other society other than the Western ones, and that happened for a reason. It's just disgusting, man. Like whites got deposed from their own country in a generation, and it's just so wrong. It's wrong on so many levels, man. So that's my position on it. But no, they shouldn't be a state.
Kitchen sink. Thank you, Charlie. I was walking through an antique store recently with my infant son, and I couldn't help but be struck by the weight of the America, which has been lost to time. The smell of the place, the tools and materials of a bygone era, the uses of some tools literally forgotten. It made me think of my grandparents and their family long dead, who were at one point living relics and whose stories captivated me. Is it weird to be heartsick for a time in which I never lived? I'm sad that my son will only inherit a degenerate America and never get more than glimpses of an American legacy to be proud of via photos, stories, and overpriced antiques in a store. Now, I rarely go into antique stores, almost never. I did a few months ago, out with family, just kind of killing time. And it is very interesting to observe. Now, I didn't necessarily have these like deep thoughts about it in the way that Kitchen Sink is describing, but I did notice how much stuff is wood and metal and not plastic. And everything was like sturdy and everything was solid and everything was just looked like it was built with more craftsmanship and less cheapness, if that makes sense.
True.
But it definitely indicated a time too where just like more stuff appeared to be made with and maintained potentially by oneself, or certainly through skill that is less mechanized or less automated, or I don't know. Maybe I'm probably wrong. It's probably just as many machines that made that stuff. It just seemed like the character of the stuff was a different quality.
Yeah.
But no doubt that things that are made today and the lifestyle we have today is one of increased convenience. You save a lot of time. It's a lot easier to live now. But that does come at a cost, of course. It comes at a cost of skills necessary to create and maintain those things oneself. And I think about this theme all the time. I don't think I've talked about it with you before, but it is crazy how manhood, in the traditional sense of like facing challenge, overcoming obstacles, literal survival, all of that is a choice now that is necessary for a man to make. But in the past, it's like, listen, dude, you either fight the bear or the bear's going to kill you. So there's no choice in the challenge. The world forces that manhood quest upon you. You can't avoid it. And now to embrace that traditional old school masculinity, and I don't mean like 1950s, I mean like the stuff you're talking about, like caveman era masculinity, you have to choose it. You have to go out and actively seek struggle, challenge, obstacles to overcome. They're not forced upon you anymore. And it's a weird age of manhood in that regard. I don't know what that has to do with antiques, but this lifestyle of convenience has its consequences, and not necessarily good in all ways, at least.
Yeah, I mean, and this does speak to, I don't remember which one of the callers it was, but it's not to say that we are saying tradition for the sake of tradition. We're saying that the passage of time happens. We came from people, we came from times, and they got a lot of stuff right, and they got some things wrong too. But what happened, especially things that lasted for thousands, hundreds or thousands of years, that means something. And if something stood in its place for a time and it wasn't sinful and people didn't mess with it, there was a reason for that. And it's not tradition for tradition, but it is to say that, older and wiser, like their elders, we did have wisdom back then, and they made things better. They built people better. They built things better. They took more care. Many of these cathedrals and societies were started by people that died before they were completed, and most of it was to the glory of God. That means something. And I just see this liberal modern thing as a complete rejection of that. And so to me, I'm not the extremist here. It's the people that are like, oh, what does it matter? What does it matter? Race doesn't matter. People thought about race all the time until very recently, and people are just like, it doesn't matter. It's such a dismissal of tradition. I mean, talk about not honoring your mother and father. That doesn't go to your biological above you. It goes all the way back to Adam. We are doing a giant. This speaks to the Canada thing too. We're doing a giant disservice to our forefathers by not paying attention to them, by thinking we know better because like science and stuff, bro. It's just dumb and irresponsible, and it's insulting to our people.
I can agree with a lot of that. And I say that as someone who I do think that our political philosophy generally has improved over time. I'm still going to cuck for the Constitution, no matter how much you try to persuade me otherwise, and the Declaration principles and all the Enlightenment nonsense and all that. However, one thing that I cannot stand about a lot of progressive perspective or left-wing perspective, however you might characterize it, and I suppose it's not exclusive to them. It can exist in other ways too. But people who think the sort of thing that you're describing, which was, wow, everyone in all of human history before me was retarded. I'm the first smart person in the history of the world. I've got it all figured out. Generation upon generation before me was dumb and backward and morally repulsive. But me, I'm the first intelligent, perfected human being. I hate that stuff. And it doesn't mean that everybody in the past got everything right. You should always look critically at everything, including tradition, to evaluate whether it's morally correct, whether it serves a certain utility. But yeah, to your point, what's the saying? You're walking in the wilderness and you see a fence. What is the assumption? Is the fence built there for a reason, or was it just some moron who had no idea what he was doing, built a fence for totally inexplicable reasons?
Yep. Yeah, you get it. And yeah, I hope they bring back craftsmanship and fine handiwork one day. It's just everything's cheap now, and in the end, a lot of it's because of globalism, and it really, the stock of people is just terrible right now. They're fine with short-term thinking. They're fine with ignorance. They're fine with obsolescence. They're fine with incompetence. So it's, without fixing the people, it's very, very difficult to do anything.
Well, I got to catch up on Super Chat, and then we'll call it a night. Let me start off over on YouTube and Tippy Stream. Long Dong John says, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the Snow Brown shit show, Matt. I didn't. First, when I saw that, I didn't even know what Snow Brown is or was. That's a reference to Snow White, but I guess she's not white, so that would be the point. Have you seen Snow Brown?
I have not.
Okay. I don't. I've never seen a single movie in my life, as you may be aware.
Yeah.
But
I do know about that. That's the ancient lore.
Yeah. And so no, I have not seen Snow Brown. I haven't paid attention to the scandal really. But he adds, I feel about it the way you'd feel about Rocky Horror or Leon. You'd walk out of them even if they were playing on an airplane. I did see that review, and that was funny. I'd walk out of this movie even if it was on a Jasmine Crockett Hot Wings airplane. God, Rocky. I could add another hour to this stream talking about Rocky Horror Picture Show and Leon the Professional. Some of the worst movies I had to watch through that movie review.
Dang, what's wrong with Leon?
What's
wrong with the Professional?
What's wrong with Leon? That is nothing but a pedophile's fantasy. That freaking movie. That you want to talk about moral decay and degeneracy? Leon the Professional. Tortuga. Matt and I once made love. It was a duct tape production. I wore another man's shirt, and then Matt accidentally outed me online. That's right. That one's true. That one's actually true. I misunderstood what Tortuga meant on Sunday, and Tortuga is one of my graphic designers, but I accidentally outed him as a graphic designer, and I wasn't supposed to do that. That's the story on that, but I'm glad he's a good sport about it. Daniel Jagger, Detroit Metro or proper? This is for you, Steven.
Metro.
Okay.
Oakland County.
Also, anyone have thoughts on the mysterious circumstances surrounding this Biden attorney taking an early dirt nap? I guess I didn't hear about that. Some Biden lawyer died. I don't know much about that. Get the old Hillary double tap suicide. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
Not especially.
Yeah, that's news to me. So I have to plead ignorance on that. I'm sorry, but Long Dong John, thank you, Daniel. Elon should buy Harley Davidson. Then he can watch the show when the libs go to the biker bars and try to damage and destroy their rides. It's funny because bikers, they have this, I guess, reputation or appearance of being so tough. Now, are you familiar with like Sturgis, the Sturgis motorcycle rally in the summer?
Yes, I am. Yeah, yeah.
So where I went to high school, a small town in Montana, we have kind of like a mini Sturgis every summer. Okay. And that was I waited tables like in high school and then into college. That's kind of how I'd make some money for school, was I waited tables, and we'd have this biker rally. And these bikers, they look tough and stuff, but they're all actually like doctors and lawyers, and they tend to tip really well because that's what they do for the summer is they ride their motorcycles around. But some of them, I mean, they got like these leather hides from being out in the sun so much, and they look like they just kick asses all day long. And so I'd always joke with my coworkers that the game I wanted to play, and I never played it because it was just a bit, but I always wanted to play this game with them called Hey You, Yeah You, Fuck You. And the thing was the dare. You had to go up to a biker and go, Hey You, yeah you, fuck you, and just kind of give them a light tap on the shoulder. And whoever, you might wonder, what's the game? The game is whoever lives wins. That was the bet. But nobody ever wanted to play Hey You, Yeah You, Fuck You with me. And actually, I wasn't brave enough to play it either.
Oh man, would not recommend. Yeah.
You know who I should play that with is Jasmine Crockett, though. I think she'd be a good player of that game. Speaking of Joshy Boy,
points.
Joshy Boy says Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes explain why we've been having high winds lately. Yeah, maybe those flappers probably get a lot of air moving.
Has anyone ever met one guy that likes that? The long nails and the long eyelash. I've never met one man.
They're all your favorite players in the NBA.
That's right. Yeah, it's all their wives.
I assume. I don't know.
I don't think any of them. Dude, all those guys are into white women.
I wonder, that's very interesting. I wonder, there's got to be like, someone has to have broken this down. What are the demographics? Because we know the NBA is predominantly black, obviously. What is it, like 80, 90% black? Something like, it's got to be, right? I'm just guessing. I don't know. But
the white man there's a white resurgence in the NBA right now. It's very nice.
They're on a good, like, who's the top white guy NBA player right now?
2 of the top 5 players are white. Nikola
There's Jokic, right?
Luka
big
Doncic.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. The guy who just went to the. I'm not a big basketball dude, but I know that was NBA people were all. He was traded to the Lakers, and that was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy named Leather Apron Club out there on YouTube, and he's done videos about like X number of Joe Rogan's guests are Jewish, and this is totally like up his alley. Like he should look at the number of snow bunnies in the NBA.
I would be curious. What are the racial demographics of the NBA wives? Yeah,
That's right.
It'd be interesting. All right. Dangerous Space is our trusty call screener over on Rumble. We need to remember that the NSA accessed Tucker's signal during the time he interviewed Putin. It would be naive to ignore that the signal event could not have been set up by an alphabet agency. I suppose that's possible. Also, Representative Jimmy Gomez asked at a House Intelligence Committee hearing whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information. Unsure if he's accusing Pete of the leak. What was the classified information?
He is a drinker, right?
Too? Well, he was in the past, yeah. He says he doesn't drink anymore, I believe, or at least has severely limited his intake.
Good man.
But yeah. That was the allegation, was Pete Hegseth was like drunk on the job at Fox and stuff like that. I don't know how true.
Now he's like, bomb Yemen, push the button.
Nothing like a night of a few beers and bombing the Houthis, man. Speaking of a fun time with your bros, it probably is pretty fun.
Yeah, man. It's like, a little bombing of brown kids, a little bit of brown whiskey. You know?
Jeez. All right. Mr. Nibbles, I swear Matt having video clips replayed midstream is his version of black people's chirping smoke detector. Can't wait to hear it again. Dude, this is, I'm so disappointed in myself. I've always billed my stream as a duct tape production because like I want it to be air quotes professional with just enough roughage that you still know it's not like this is not a cable news show, something like that. But I have this thing, man. I switch these scenes, right? And my problem is like, I'll play a clip, so
that we're clear. One of the first
and if I leave that enabled accidentally, and we're talking about whatever, and I go back, and if I've left that enabled accidentally, it's going to play right away. And it's every time, every stream, I do it one time on accident and only once. And it's so predictable that people probably think I'm doing it intentionally. And I feel like I'm almost doing it intentionally, but I can't stop. It's like the one thing you do enough stream production. It's like, all right, you press this button and that button, and you kind of get robotic about it. You get this muscle memory, but I can't break that error. There's nothing I can do to fix it.
You're cooked. Yeah.
GR. Okay, here we go. GR's back. He's probably going to rip you, I guess.
Let's do it.
Hey, Majaga. Who is this bitch ass fag homo? Jeez. Who? Okay. All right. This got ridiculous. Who is this bitch ass fag homo who rides his daddy's dick? All right. Sausage Fest fudge packers having a cry-a-thon using leftist words like bitch boy, you DTT having ass pirates. What is DT? You mean DVT? I don't know.
Jeez.
Okay. I'm going to take that in the best possible terms, GR. But because I know you're a joke-making man who likes to support the show, and I appreciate your support for the show. However, you can't criticize use of certain words while calling him a bitch-ass fag homo who rides daddy's dick. I think you gotta pick, but I gather it's probably some element of comedy here. Steven, do you want to accept or reject the charge?
Yeah, I mean, this is either the greatest troll ever with his severely disabled voice, or a person. I mean, if this is a Christian, he should seriously examine what the scripture has to say about certain things. And I don't know. It's just, this is a person that has not made one serious point our entire communication, and accuses me of being anti-intellectual. And so this person is either the greatest troll ever or like a low functioning retard.
Well, at least he's not a bitch ass fag homo who rides his daddy's dick.
I do deny all allegations. I do plead the fifth commandment on that one.
Yeah. All right. GR has more to add. I'll just get through these. This dumb shit looks as retarded as Hitler. Well, I didn't know Hitler looked retarded, but all right. I haven't seen a stupider looking ass licker look at it. I don't even. Okay, go ahead and list your pronouns. Got him. Got you, Steven, you pronoun lister.
Yeah, man. It's like people can't do stuff without swearing. It's kind of a shame. It's approaching idiocracy. That's a trite point at this stage, but they don't know what they do is they are so stupid to recognize anything that they just call uncomfortable ideas stupid and anti-intellectual. But just look at this person's vocabulary. I asked him for his strongest point. He said, you said incel improperly. He has no intellectual or argumentative leg to stand on whatsoever. That's why he's not making points.
All right, he's got a couple more. You would be better off alone tonight, less gay that way. Get this fucking bottom off my screen. All right. Well, Steven's my bottom, so you're going to have to deal with it, I guess. Or no, I'll be your bottom, Steven, if you'll accept.
That's why I'd just rather be an incel. just nowhere near any of it.
GR also adds he's the token S word. He's an S word that rhymes with stick. I also hate Snow Brown. Fuck that commie bitch and that lame excuse for a movie. Leave the classics alone and remake movies that nobody remembers. Well, it does seem like there's a crisis of originality in storytelling these days, and maybe Snow Brown is part of that. Last one from GR. Thanks for taking my call, Matt and Tim. I wish I could have had a more positive topic or conversation. Well, you can. I mean, you make that choice. You know, I enjoyed it, and it wasn't all that nervous, but just the sound of my high voice. Well. Yeah, I mean, you're welcome. You can call in and hate. You can call in and be positive. You can do whatever you want, and you're entitled to any of those. But yeah, I mean, nobody forces you to be negative if you don't want to be negative.
Yeah, true.
Anyway,
yeah, I mean, it was. I like taking the calls, and yeah, this is a great time. It's just what I do for a living. My entire life is invested in this, and most people are doing this kind of just as a hobby, as a sport, 1 or 2 hours a day. And it's, I literally can have no other job the rest of my life that I'm so canceled. And I don't even have the benefits of being even popular. It's not like I have 100,000 subs. I'm doxxed. I'm canceled. That's fine. I'm banned from a bunch of stuff. So I have my life force invested in this. And because of that, I just don't care. I don't care if you guys are wrong, man. That's your business. So I'm just going to proceed forth, keep listening to people smarter than me, doing my research and whatever. And I'm not even mad about it. It's just that these are not high quality people trying to take me down. If once they're high quality, they'll beat my ass because I'm not that smart. But these people are just not saying anything.
Well, I will defend the honor of my callers. But
you are, but. Yeah, it's just especially that guy who just emailed in. That's just kind of disgusting speech.
Are you talking about the chatter? The emailers were
the retard that whatever all those emails, yeah.
It's the Stephen v. GR war, but I'm sure we'll revisit it.
I would love to talk to this guy anytime, man. On my channel too.
Yeah, maybe you guys can. I'm not trying to cultivate hostility, obviously, and I think the idea exchange is interesting. But I do take the point. You got to bring more than look at this retarded queer homo faggot. Although I do think those words are funny when
they are
when applied.
Yeah, I mean,
Steve's just Steve. All right, here's some appreciation for Steven. Finally, a good co-host. Can we just bring him on full time instead of and stop the rotating door? Well,
let's go.
There's a Steven fanboy. I appreciate his contribution, but I appreciate the contribution of all of my guys. So I'll take positivity wherever I can find it. Ninja Kitten. Kitty is a fed. So he added Jeffrey Goldberg to the group chat. Yeah, suckers. Harris 2028. Now, yeah, are you so? You mentioned that you're teetering on the like collapsitarian view, which, frankly, if Kamala Harris had been elected president, I was kind of there. Like that was that to me. That was like the line of I've tried not to be, but we're done if this lady's the president, and not specifically because of her. It just means that nobody's ever going to beat that sort of Democrat power structure ever again. If you were collapsitarian, who would be your collapsitarian candidate?
Well, just a quick word on the Kamala Harris thing. I don't think America would have ended during her regime. I think it takes a lot more time to do that. But the reason
my faith in the country's recovery. Yeah, that's what.
That's a positive. I mean, at this point, if we have smart white men losing faith in the system, that's awesome. I count that all joy. But I just think that there is going to be there's always a major crisis in every administration. And just for the simple fact that we could have blamed her for it would have been great. But now Trump or whoever the supposed right wing is going to be blamed for any of the shortcomings, and there's always a snapback. Politics is a dialectic, so there's always going to be a response. So I wasn't a Harris supporter. I will never support someone who's pro-abortion. That's why I don't support Trump. Real ones get that joke. But it's like, I don't know, man. Not Harris, but who's my collapse. See, I don't want to crash all of it all the time. I just want faith in the wrong institutions to be destroyed, and I want that to be replaced with better institutions and better people. So well, I'll amend this. It's not collapsitarian, it's the entertainment vote. That's when I say collapsitarian or nihilism or whatever, it's just the LOL entertainment, content vote. That's really where I'm coming from when I say those words.
Yeah. And I appreciate what you're saying about loyalty to what at the highest levels. Now, I believe our constitutional framework is a great legal structure, but the Constitution doesn't tell you how to be a good man and live a good life. It secures your rights to do that for yourself when properly defended and applied. But you can't. Can you really look to the Constitution for, or really any of our legal framework for moral guidance? No, of course not. And you shouldn't. And I don't think the people who framed it would say that. But I do think that maybe to some degree, at least among some, it has been substituted as a moral framework. It is reflective of a moral framework. It is installed with recognition of a moral framework. But our legal founding itself is not a moral framework that is a substitute for something like faith in Christ, something like an objective moral framework to the world. And I know that there's, I don't know. I don't know that there's a lot, but I think the hostility that maybe gets directed at you, maybe from some of my audience, is maybe relate. I guess I don't even know how I'm phrasing it. What I'm trying to say is there's, between you and me, I think there's a lot of overlap on those themes. Like where we disagree, I think is less significant than overlap on moral authority.
Yeah.
And if people agreed on that stuff, I think we'd have a much better country.
Yeah, I mean, with a fine stock, then almost any system can work. I think almost any system can work with a moral stock other than communism. So in that way, I'm not as anti-capitalist as I am anti-communist. I think just communism is just purely of the devil. That's the devil's government. And I think, I mean, I don't have the sources in front of me, although I have some of them memorized. I'm not going to cite all this stuff. It's just my belief. But I think that the founders just wouldn't ever have started the country like that if you would have told them that non-whites could have been Americans. I think they would have laughed at that. I think racial homogeneity is part of the morality of a people in a certain way. If there's enough diversity beyond a certain point, you are being immoral towards your people. So in that sense, race is part of morality. And I do believe that every single one of them would have just been appalled. All I'm saying is what Jared Taylor says, man. Jared Taylor in that interview with the ABC Pajit lady, he hit the nail on the head. They would have been appalled, and it's our right as a people to defend ourselves. That's it. That's all that's going on here. And it was a European white European Christian society from the jump, and it wasn't started in 1776 either. That was the forming of the government, but it predates that.
I think with the qualifier of the collar, that obviously there were moral questions about how to treat members of other races at the founding, obviously. Yeah. And this is actually really interesting. I don't say this rhetorically to try to support or disprove your point, but this has come up on my stream many times. And in my reading of the founding documents, generally, and you can correct me, I'm not making this as a definitive statement. Maybe you know something I don't. But generally, when you read the founding philosophy, there's not a lot of explicit racial talk other than, say, like the immigration bill that you referenced at the time of the founding. But I'm talking about like the Jeffersonian Declaration of Independence. These are the principles on which we found this government. There's not a lot of racial talk in that. And there are two ways to interpret that. One is that it was explicitly or that it was intentionally racially blind. Like, race is no factor in any of this. The other way to interpret it, and this, again, it's not an endorsement on my part. It's saying there are two good faith ways to interpret it. The other would be that these premises were understood or assumed at the time. I think there are a lot of things that go unstated because those are just the norms of the era. And I guess I'd invite your response to that. Like,
dude,
the racial awareness ignored intentionally, or was it assumed and so it was undiscussed? If you agree that it was
beyond assumed. It was all these guys were white. They were all from European nations. They were
all English at that time. I mean, they were
that's what I'm saying. I'm even more racist than white supremacist is what, like, don't call me a white supremacist. I'm arguing for even a smaller subset of that, just like the founding fathers. They would have found it to be the most ridiculous thing in the world there's writings between them of, we don't need to include that because a Christian and an Englishman and an American are essentially synonyms. I mean,
I've not seen that. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Can you send me an example of it? I would be interested to see it.
And dude, the entire world and non-whites thought this at the time too. When
what about us dirty Danes? Do I get in, or am I?
Of course, you're American. That's a Nord, man.
Okay.
No one.
I'm not sent to not Huristan or whatever the country we're expelling people to is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, there's testimonies from people being conquered at the time that they would say the Christians are coming. Even if they weren't Christian, it was that English, American after that became a word, but English and Christian were basically synonyms. The West is a very new term. It was called Christendom. It was called Europeans. It was these are basically synonyms. So, yeah, and they at that time it was common knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that we all have God-given rights that are not race specific, and this is not commentary to your point on like, oh, this race is obviously superior in moral terms to that race or something like that. But there are other sides of this politically, like you're talking about. It's not even a point of force. It's just sort of a point of the way the world works out. Like, people have in-group preferences. They tend to sort, why do we have neighborhoods that tend to be this race or that race? And it's not like someone pointed a gun at them and made them do it. It's just people like tend to have that association preference and all of those things. It's, those are political realities themselves too. It's not, these are not things, to me, obviously, I don't want, like, racial identity is not, like it's not the highest, but there are moral truths that are far superior to racial identity to me on the stack of priorities.
100%. But race is still a thing. That's all I'm arguing for.
Right. The other side of it is like the prevailing perspective these days that there are that race is a made up concept and there are no distinctions on average across groups. Again, not saying that it makes you a better or worse person or morally inferior or superior, but that like there aren't, take race, take gender, take age, take whatever, wherever you make demographic splits, you're going to have differences on average. That is always true. But for some reason, we're supposed to pretend it's never true in the context of race, which is absurd. Doesn't make you a bad person as an individual or something, but why are we pretending like that's not an obvious truth?
Well, I mean, and also people are essentially being asked to not protect their family by noticing patterns, because racial groups, there are groups that are more violent than others on average when extrapolated across history. There's ones that build more. There's ones that destroy more. There's ones that have sussy morality, at least if you have a Christian morality, compared to certain groups. So what you're basically being asked to do on a societal level is you're walking down a dark alley and you see the wrong person and you're not allowed to walk the other way. That's the main problem I have with it. And they're doing this with our country, our families, our country, our people, our children, our institutions. And you're like, I can't notice this thing. Well, you can't notice this thing to the factual level, but what they're basically saying is that it isn't even a factor. It is the most untenable position in the world, which is why an idiot like me can still be right.
Forced association is the new American way, it seems. You will bake the cake, you will you will bus the kids, you will do this, you will do that, whatever. Like, you no longer have the right to your own association and just saying, no thank you, even if your reasons are mistaken. I don't necessarily, people make decisions I disagree with all the time, but it's very important to defend the right to make that decision of association and how you'd like to live your life. You start erasing that, you start forcing people into boxes that don't naturally work or fit. You get all sorts of chaos, but I guess that's what we're watching. Let's see. Dangerous Spaces, there's a couple more here and we'll call it a night. These days, things are mass produced for people before they need it. As such, it needs to be made cheaply. Back in the day, things were built individually as needed, and so they were made sturdy and with care. That's kind of interesting, like a made-to-order product instead of a off-the-shelf, cheap plastic creation. Yeah.
Well, this is one of my critiques of capitalism. It needs infinite growth. It requires infinite growth forever in order to be capitalism.
I'm not sure I understand that premise, but we have to table that one for another time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, GR. All right, lastly, GR. Thanks for taking my call, Matt and Tim. I wish I could have had more. Oh, wait. No, we read that one. Okay, GR has one more. He's moronic, and I tried to be nice during and after the call.
What?
He could fuck his mama the way he likes, but it was my first call, asshole. I've only spoken to small groups and strangers on movie night. Well, GR...
Bro, play the tape. Listen tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time. I will play the tape, bro.
There definitely was coming in hot, and that's okay. You're allowed to come in hot, and you're allowed to call names, but there's a lot of name calling here too. So that doesn't mean
not allowed to lie like this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, GRA, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your support for the show, and if you want to be nice, we can be nice. I'm not trying to be mean either, but I will say, like. It came hot, and there was a hot response, and that's fine. I as a listener, that's fun to listen to sometimes, but if the premise is that Steven attacked you,
so ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm a little wary on that one. But I still appreciate your contribution to the show, of course. And thank you for that. And anyway, thanks for all you've done always, of course. All right. I forgot Odyssey. My goodness, my mistake over there. Thank you for waiting patiently, Blankets. Matt, what do you think of RFK going after Big Soda? Well, the only thing I've seen is people are trying to take soda off of food stamp benefits, right? That's fine. I have no problem with that. Although there was this whole sub-controversy of people being like paid to say that that's a problem. You see all that stuff going on X?
Right.
I didn't follow it super closely. Now, what confused me is like everybody had these scripted messages of like, this is big government run amok. How could they try to control people from drinking soda? You should be able to drink as much soda as you want, even if the taxpayer's paying for it. And it was like this controlled message by something called Influenceable. But what confused me is I saw some of the people who were posting this later saying, I was never paid. It's like, yes, I was given a message that I said on behalf of somebody else secretly, but I was never paid, which to me is even worse. Like, now, outside of Superchat, now people can pay me to say stuff. See the Superchat that we just read, okay?
Yes.
But that's a premise where that's what's happening. Nobody has ever paid me to say something that I then presented as my own thought, okay? And I never, ever would, because I think that's a huge breach. You don't do that. That's dishonest. That's scummy stuff. But how is it a defense to say, yeah, someone wrote that for me and I presented it as my own, but I wasn't paid to do it? That's even worse. You still did the scummy thing and you didn't get the check? What kind of idiot are you? Why would you do that? It made no sense. So maybe I misunderstand.
It's the difference between a whore and a slut.
Yes, exactly. A whore gets paid. Whores can still buy nice things if they're good at their job.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
Thank you for clarifying. You know, that's like in the future.
Hey, I'm a definitions guy. You know,
and pronunciation. That's what I like about you. No,
anti-semantics. Yeah.
Thank you for being a good spirit, a good sport. I mean, GR. That's that time of night where, speaking of pronunciation and words, I can't put them together because my brain's tired. But let me give a quick refresh and we'll call it a night. Man, I said I'm aiming for a 90-minute stream, and here we are at 2.5 hours.
Let's go. I've loved it, man. I loved it. I've been trying to milk it the whole time.
Okay, one last question for you, and this one is in good faith. This is from Tortuga. Curious why Steve says the chat is full of libs.
Sure, because the Constitution is a liberal document, and it is things like free speech, human rights, how they're understood today, civil rights, free trade to a certain extent. These modern notions of liberties and freedoms are by definition liberal. And notice that I'm not saying like classical liberal or modern liberal or crazy liberal or leftist. These are, Russell Kirk, basically the guy who coined the definitions of conservatism. He was an open liberal. They were all liberals. Every politician, George Washington was a liberal.
Can I ask, when you say liberal, compared to what? Does that mean like compared to what? Authoritarianism or something? What is the opposite?
Most historians and academics that have studied there's a limited number of worldviews and political ways to organize government in history. There's not that many. And Westernism in the last, give or take 200 or 300 years, it's all liberal. It's based on liberalism is a set of presuppositions that underpin the philosophy and thus the politics.
What's the word for the stuff that came before it, though? Or what was the prevailing philosophy before
monarchy.
It? Okay, so monarchy.
Monarchy is one of them. And the problem is that almost it's kind of a trap that people lay, because it's like, there's a third position, and that's fascism, right? There's liberalism, there's communism, and there's third positionism, which is fascism. But what they neglect to talk about is that the successful monarchies and successful societies that predate this, not dialectic, but this trialectic, the successful monarchies would all have been called basically National Socialists now. It was a strong authoritarian ruler, sometimes a council, and there was ways that it filtered out democracies in various countries, but at the end of the day, there was a strong leadership. There was strong leadership, and they had a vested interest in taking care of their people through resources, right? And there was a welfare state in almost all societies, and there were classes, there were explicit classes, and there wasn't a lot of upward mobility. You kind of just had your lot in life, you had your station in life, and that, in sense, there wasn't mass media, there wasn't this insane envy and covetousness of people in different classes. It was just, my dad did this, and so will I, and that's okay. And I would never dream to want to be the king. The king is the king. I don't know who he is. It was just a different imagination of it was almost the imagination and the presuppositions were different in almost every noticeable way.
So the defining feature of liberalism, the way you're using it, is power in the people, or what is the defining?
Yeah, property. That's one that I left off the list. Popular sovereignty would have been a big part of it, but it's that the common person can decide things, that just through things like, if we all just can read, then we all can just decide. That information is the deciding factor in intelligence. I reject all of these things. They're all just false. And it doesn't mean we should be dumb. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be individuals in terms of hardworking and virtuous men, but it wasn't the most important thing. Us as individuals are not the most important thing about us. It's not the smallest building block of society. You are the son of many, many fathers. You are a person in a station in life. And there wasn't a rejection of things like class and caste and station in life and hierarchy. Liberalism extreme liberalism is just the extreme rejection of hierarchy. The most liberal worldview is anarchy, but that doesn't mean that constitutionalism isn't liberalism. It's still based on the individual, that he can just learn enough to free himself from all hierarchies. So I'm not that articulate about it, but I have read a lot about it. It just isn't it's a set of presuppositions that are shared from everyone, from basically like Winston Churchill to Nancy Pelosi to George Washington to Russell Kirk to many thinkers throughout the last 300 years. But
I'm gonna speculate there are some differences between George Washington and Nancy
it's not
Pelosi.
that there's no difference. Is that the presupposition?
Yeah, like you're saying they're built on some sort of similar foundation. Although, yeah, obviously I think Pelosi has strayed from certain founding principles in many ways, but yeah.
If you look at how the government and the media and the common person talk these days, they're coming to different conclusions, but they're all based on the same presuppositions. That's what I'm saying. That it doesn't matter the conclusion; they're basing it on truths that are not necessarily true.
Okay, well, at the risk of streaming another hour, I'll probably have to leave it there because what are those truths? But that's
tomorrow. I'm going to talk. Yeah. I'm basically I got all these news tabs in my show tomorrow. I'm axing all of them. I'm just going to review this whole stream.
Well, shit. All right. Yeah. Hey, I'll take the review stream of my material. I appreciate it. But hey, man, listen, I really appreciate you your contribution tonight. And I know, like I said, I know it's not easy to roll into a place where maybe some people are going to be hostile or disagreeable, but I this is one of the things I'm looking for. Like, you don't have to agree with everything Steven says, and certainly I don't. But to your point on principles, like you should understand the baseline premises on which you disagree. And what I appreciate about your line of thinking is you're going to be forced to consider those. Are those correct or are those not? And we can drill down on that. I like it. I like that you're shaking it up a little bit, although I'm still confused about Kanye's vision of a communist capitalist society to which we should all strive, if I've characterized that correctly. But anyway,
I'm still working through that one.
Yeah. I like that you're a man of ideas. That's what I appreciate. There are a few of those these days, and whatever you think of Steven, he's not a guy that just looks at his list of talking points provided to him from somebody. You're thinking critically about everything you believe in, and I can appreciate that and respect that. So thank you for your contribution to my stream. And of course, I don't know. Listen, I'm the boss around here, so you're welcome back on my show. I'm sure you will be back. But
nice. If
there's mutiny among the crew, if they murder me and take my stream away from me, I can't promise to save you from that. So
yeah. Well, first of all, man, I loved coming on, and honestly, even for the people that we talk smack, it's just internet banter,
of course,
man.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, really, it's no hard feelings, and I'm not mad about anything. I'm just thinking hard. I try to think hard and listen hard to what people are saying, and maybe I'm a little too autistic in that I'm just like, you said this thing, I'm going to hold you to that thing.
You know what's funny is you handle that almost exactly the same way I do. When we used to do a lot more calls, anytime someone would come in and make an accusation against me, because you can disagree with me, okay? I'm not... Obviously, I have a lot of wrong opinions. My opinions have changed over time on a lot of things. But I'm the same way, where if someone says that I said something or I did something, I'm like, oh, hold on, dude. You gotta explain that in detail. I do, yeah. So it's fun to watch because I can see the same things I'm usually feeling and thinking operating in your head when it happens. Yeah. It's cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person that loves words, and you are speaking, we are human. So in that way, I believe in rights more than you, because not you, Matt, but I'm treating you like an individual.
No one believes in rights more than me. It's not possible.
It's true.
Yeah.
The fence. One day you'll leave the fence. Just kidding.
Speaking of triggering me, the fence. I lean into the meme because it's funny.
Satan
I am
owns
not
the
a fence rider,
bro.
you son of a bitch. I got lots of principles by which I stand. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just listening to what people are saying, and words really matter to me. So, and I know, I mean, I looked at the chat a little bit, and it's like they're like, we're just trolling. I mean, that's fine, but you're not a serious person. Then, if you want to be taken seriously, then speak seriously. You don't have to be. I've smiled and laughed many times, but if you want. It's like on one hand you want your ideas to be taken seriously, but you don't want to be taken seriously. I'm saying you should want to be taken seriously, and you should be serious enough that words matter at least. So
in their defense, they're in the chat. How serious can you be in the chat? But
look, as serious as you can be is my point. But there's a difference between being serious and saying the opposite of what you think. And it's like if you, I don't know, I can see the difference, and my chat's awesome in that way. And there's jokes and there's serious takes, but when you blend the two and then blame another person, it's just, okay, no one's going to, and that makes me happy to see that liberalism is losing because
congratulations, buddy.
Now,
congratulations
anyway,
on your amazing chat and their superiority to mine.
Yeah. But I hope that you guys come tomorrow. I don't even care if you sub up. You should sub up tonight so you get my notification tomorrow. But we're just going to do this for like 5 or 6 hours.
And you can
tomorrow.
go in the chat and call him a homo fag all you want.
Please.
I don't even know if he'll ban you.
I'll break it down word by word by word. And if you get banned by a mod, I'll just unmod the mod, unban you so we can talk. Like I'm a complete fascist on my show, dude. Whatever I say goes. So I'll welcome you in and let's talk. But we're going to review this footage. And I'll explain to you why you're all a bunch of libs.
That's noon tomorrow. Right?
Noon Eastern time.
Every
Eastern
Thursday,
time. The weekly notice.
Yeah, the weekly notice. You can find the link in the description if you want to check that out. Whether you want to go to listen to Steven or just troll his chat and tell him he likes whatever kind of gay sex was alleged. I can't remember.
You will get banned for sex stuff, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're PG-13 in our chat.
Oh, well, all right. Congratulations on that too. I embrace the degeneracy around here apparently, but anyway, all right. I gotta get out of here. Thank you to everybody who participated tonight. Of course, thank you to our live chatters and our callers. Appreciate you guys, and super chatters. Thanks for making the live show a success. If you're listening later on demand, thank you kindly as well. Thanks to Stephen Baker for sitting in tonight. Thanks to our emailers as well. And thanks to Tim for his assistance. Appreciate all of you. MattChristiansenMedia.com is where you find everything show related, or mattis.gay if you can't remember how to spell my name. I'll be back on Sunday, as always, Wednesdays too. Have a great night and a great week.